You mean? Thank you very much. Okay, members, you'll have had your open announcements. Can I welcome you all back, first and foremost, to our September meeting. We've had a pretty exciting month. I would like to start off by sending my condolences to the loss of former Banbridge councillor, Mr. Derek Bell. Mr. Bell was indeed a stalwart of Banbridge and a fantastic unionist and an Orange man, and he will be deeply missed by all within the Banbridge area. Unfortunately, I didn't get to work with him, but I know Alderman Ian Burns did work with him through his tenure at Banbridge District Council, and I would like to invite Alderman Burns to say a few words.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I did have the opportunity to serve with Derek from 2000 to 2005. Derek was a Banbridge man born and bred, a decent fella, and a lifelong unionist, as you said. Derek took up the opportunity in 1997 to stand for election. I think at the time it was reluctant. He was more or less press ganged into it, but he took to it like a duck to water, and he served for 2 terms, 8 years on Banbridge District Council. A good worker, a good, honest person, and he will be sorely missed by, as you say, not only the Ulster Unionist Party, but the people of Banbridge and the Orange District in particular. And I would like to send my sincere sympathy to Derek's family, to his friend Violet, to his sister-in-law Doreen, niece Sharon, and nephew Colin. They will all greatly miss him, as we will as well. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Burns, and I know that he was always smiling and he always had that wee cheeky way with him. Alderman Spears, I'm going to bring yourself in.
Lord Mayor, I was one of those that had the privilege of knowing the late Mr. Bell. I met him on many occasions in his time a member of Banbridge, and indeed my time as a member in Armagh. I've always found him and known him to be a gentleman. He certainly was committed to Banbridge. He was very much a Banbridge man, and he had lived and died, as it were, and lived for the people of Banbridge. Yes, he was a committed Ulster Unionist, and I certainly salute his memory. And indeed, on behalf of the party widely, I pass on our deepest sympathy to his family at this particular time. Thanking you.
Thank you very much, Alderman Spears. Members, last Thursday you'll have seen some special visitors for the opening of the South Lake Leisure Centre. It's fantastic from my perspective, having the first opportunity to actually meet a member of the royal family. I suppose from our conversations, I was escorting him around the place, and I'd said to him that I'm taking you to the gymnasium next, and I'm going to put you on the treadmill, and he sort of laughed and he says that would be torture for me. But he also explained about some of the other leisure plexes that he had been to himself, and there was one, I believe it was Manchester, that he had said where there was 2 floors to the swimming pool. One was the lower level where elite swimmers could go, and one was the upper level where members of the public could go. And he was saying that it was obviously fantastic, obviously from his perspective where he was at. So I was maybe thinking, maybe we could look at that for Banbridge swimming pool and moving forward. So members, will move on from that because we have a full agenda. Agenda item 1, we have apologies from Councillor Loughran. Do we have any other apologies, please? No. Okay, move on to agenda item 2, which is the council minutes. Can I seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of August 2021? be taken as read and approved as a correct record. Proposed by Councillor Nicholson and seconded by Councillor Greenfield. We all agreed? Thank you, members. Okay, move on to declarations of interest, agenda item 3. Obviously, we'll take any now or we'll take them whenever we come to them. Councillor McLean, you had your hand up there. Do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you. It was more under the matters arising from the minutes at item C300/2021. And it was just, I had the opportunity recently to meet with the Lord Deben, who chairs the UK Climate Change Committee. And it was good, certainly, to get an update from him in terms of some of their thinking and some of their work and how it can hopefully feed into the process at our own Northern Ireland Assembly. And indeed, it is good, it is heartening that at least one other party now has come on to support us in terms of getting a realistic and a workable climate change bill. So it was just the update there, Lord Mayor. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Move on to agenda item 4. We've got a presentation from DFA Road Service on their annual report. In the chamber this evening, we have Mark McPeak and Desmond Blacker, and on Zoom we have Kieran McKenna. So I'm going to hand it over to yourselves. Members, just bear with me as we go through this because I'm working off 2 screens as well as members here in the chamber in case I'm a wee bit slow off in the uptake with bringing you in. Okay, over to yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to present the DFI Roads annual report. And forgive me at the start, a bit of a cough, so I'm going to try to talk slowly. My name is Mark McPeak, and I'm the Divisional Roads Manager for Southern Division. I'm grateful for this opportunity to present our report to you. With me tonight is our 2 section engineers who cover maintenance activities across the council area. You may be familiar with Desi Blacker, who leads our Craigavon and Banbridge office based in Carn Depot, and also Kieran McKenna, who leads our Armagh office based in Armagh. Both are very experienced civil engineers, and their section office staff are probably the first port of call for many of your queries. We're pleased to join the council meeting this evening, which is an opportunity for us to update you. Can I first thank those who attended the clinics last week, which raised a number of queries and questions, as well as any further queries that may be gathered tonight, which we will take away and provide a written response to council. I hope you all will have received a copy of the annual report, which details the work we completed last financial year and includes our programme of work for this financial year, which is ongoing. I have included on the last page of the report the contact details for your business areas, which I trust you will find useful. We're keen to receive information that helps us manage and improve the safety of the road network. And as such, we have structured a communication mechanism that helps us do this. It is structured in 3 main areas. Firstly, the report of fault system, which is designed to collect network defects only, such as streetlights, potholes, blocked gullies. This system will record defects onto our work planning system that will allow them to be checked and categorized for defect repair. This system helps to get defects processed more effectively. I do, however, acknowledge that the system can be improved. It is a self-help system only with a reference number given and that reference number used to go back and find out where the defect is. I am currently looking into trying to improve the system and talking to our internal digital team to try and do that. Secondly, separate generic email addresses per function, such as maintenance, street lighting, traffic, relates to network improvement, caters for queries which you require a detailed response. If in doubt, what email address to use, please use the generic email address. That's the dfiroads.southern. Thirdly, the 24/7 number 0300 200 7899 provides access to Teams during office hours and out of hours emergencies. There is also the 24/7 flooding instant line of 0300 200 0100 to report flooding problems. May I also add that the department's Traffic Watch NI website is a useful tool to obtain the latest information on incidents and road closures across the network. There are many thousands of inquiries and correspondence cases each year from within this council area. So this communication mechanism is thought to be the most effective to be able to allow us to manage defects, queries, and emergencies that are received by the public. This system also allows each case to be tracked and monitored. There may be a few cases that take longer to investigate, but we will endeavour to respond as soon as possible. If you have not had a response within a reasonable timescale, please come back to us and we will chase it up. Clinics held last week are a great way for us to engage with council and are a valuable source of information that supplements the team's knowledge of desires across the area. I would like to continue with this form of engagement during the year, if not even to have a second clinic out with this arrangement of presenting the report. In 2021 year was unprecedented due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. However, we worked closely with our contractors to develop new working practices to ensure that much needed road maintenance and improvement works could proceed. And as a result, most of our 2021 programme was successfully delivered despite the absence of work over the first part of the year. As you can imagine, given the nature of roadworks and the interaction needed between the workmen and indeed the general public, this has been a particularly challenging period for all concerned. I will start my presentation of the report by setting the scene in relation to funding for roads. For a number of years, funding for roads maintenance has been far below the level required to maintain structural integrity of the road network. Hence, we need to focus our limited resources on the parts of the road most in need of attention and where most benefit is obtained. The initial 21-22 capital maintenance budget for Northern Ireland subsequently increased from around 75 million to 120 million. Of this, 17 million has been set aside for Roads Recovery Fund, including 15 million targeted towards rural roads. This increase of investment still falls short of the 143 million required to maintain the road network in a reasonable condition. In recent years, regrettably, there has been a significant reduction in funding for our local transport and safety measures schemes, such as pedestrian crossings, traffic calming, collision remedial, and junction improvements. This limits our capacity to undertake schemes of this nature, albeit we are continuing to deliver as broad a work programme as possible. I am pleased to say that additional funding has recently been made available for blue-green active travel. So it's all about walking, wheeling and cycling as safer routes to schools. This will allow the delivery of upgrade of 5 kilometres around the Craigavon lakes and the rollout of a second tranche of part-time 20-mile-an-hour speed limits at schools. Resource maintenance initial allocations are also similar to the last year, but are still insufficient to deliver the level of services needed. Hence, we continue with our limited service policy. This affects our day-to-day works, such as pothole repairs, gully cleaning, grass cutting, amongst others. With regard to potholes, the funding that is available allows the department to repair defects greater than 50 millimetres on all roads, including low traffic rural roads. On high traffic roads, defects greater than 20 millimetres will be repaired. The department aimed to carry out 2 grass cuts on the roadside verges and sightlines between April and October, with sightlines and bends and junctions being cut more frequently. We also continue to rely on in-year funding to deliver core services, including winter grading. On a positive note, funding for traffic signal maintenance this financial year has also continued at previous levels. To ensure road safety and traffic progression, safety to limited periods of disruption to road users. Funding is also available to allow street lighting repair service for the year, which is very much welcomed. However, we only repair defects that are reported to us, which can be through either the report of fault service or the 24/7 0300 200 7899 number. Priority is given to emergency defects, group outages, and then single light defects. I would encourage use of the report of fault service to allow us to take action to repair these defects. In addition, we have received capital funding to continue to roll out a program of LED retrofitting that will help reduce both the number of street light outages and emergency consumption. In respect of all functions which we deliver, I can assure you that we will continue to bid for additional funding during the year when opportunities arise. With regard to the report itself, Section 1, page 8 to 11 gives an update of our strategic road improvement schemes and includes the A1 junctions phase 2 and remainder on the current status of the A3. So a reminder of the current status of the A3 Armagh North and West Link and the A28 Armagh East Link schemes. Over the past year, good progress has been made on the A1 junctions phase 2 scheme, which includes 4 new grade setter junctions at Listully-Curran Road, Gowdiestown Road, Skelton Road, and Warringstown Road. Following consideration of the inspector's proposals and recommendations, the Minister Mellon announced that publication of a departmental statement on the 28th of January 21, which accepted the outcomes of the public inquiry and her decision to progress the scheme in readiness of funding becoming available. The direction order and stopping up orders came into operation in July 21. On-site works for ground investigations and substantially complete. Work is now progressing on the economic appraisal and subject to its approval, progression to construction will depend on budget allocations over future years. The report also provides a reminder on the 2 Armagh schemes. The progression of these schemes will be dependent on the outcome of the Regional Strategic Network Transport Plan, which will set out the priorities for the future development of the main road and rail network. Moving to section 2, pages 12 to 32, gives an update on network maintenance. The first couple of pages identify key staff and how to contact them with maintenance queries, as well as an overview of key maintenance activities undertaken. Pages 16 to 21 look back at road surfacing, works completed during the financial year when we completed a substantial programme of works, including approximately 33 kilometres of asphalt and bitmag resurfacing, and 115 kilometres of surface dressing, and 11 footway reconstruction schemes, and 36 drainage maintenance schemes. A number of significant resurfacing schemes have been completed, including the Valley Road in Tandragee, Main Street in Donaghcloney, Dockery Road in Banbridge, and Bestbrook Road in Market Hill. Pages 23 to 28 detail the proposed schemes that we are aiming to deliver in the 21-22 financial year. A list of proposed resurfacing schemes are on pages 23 and 24. Again, we are undertaking a broad range of schemes spread across the council area. A list of surface dressing schemes on pages 24 to 27, which are all completed in early August 21 as it is a summertime activity because it's very much weather dependent. Also listed in this part of the report are proposed footway reconstruction schemes and proposed drainage maintenance works, which are listed in pages 27 and 28. Maintenance of our structures is another important function, and works undertaken and proposed to maintain our bridges, culverts, retaining walls, and upgrades to our vehicle restraint systems are detailed in pages 29 and 30. Page 31 details some work related to abandonments undertaken by our lands team. To conclude this section on network maintenance, page 32 outlines the vital work undertaken by the Divisional Maintenance Service team. A fleet of 38 gritters and 140 personnel were available between October and April to salt approximately 1,708 kilometres of main roads across the division. There was 90 full salting actions last season, and each on the 26-kilometre gritting route, which used 15,284 tonnes of salt. Each gritting action takes 3 hours to complete, which is a complex logistical exercise. Preparations are currently being made towards the next winter period, which is about to start. Moving on to section 3, page 33, starts our network development section. In some key contact details on page 34, explains the importance of continuing to identify and implement local transport safety measures across the council area to enhance safety, improve traffic progression, and improve measures for pedestrians and cyclists. Pages 35 to 44 look back and detail work which was completed last year to improve road safety and traffic progression. This includes a number of pedestrian measures such as footways, traffic islands, guardrails, as well as accessible parking bays and other legislation associated with speed limits, as well as lists of traffic signs provided, new road markings, drop curbs to assist pedestrian movements. I draw your attention to the Minister's initiative for part-time 20 speed limits at schools on page 37. 8 schools at 7 locations have now been completed across the area. A second tranche of part-time 20-mile-an-hour speed limits at schools has now been launched, and 6 schools will now be taken forward during this year in this council area. That's listed on page 49. Like last year, we will need to work through the legislative process required for the introduction of the new speed limits prior to instructing contractors to commence works. Pages 45 to 53 look forward and outline our network development programme for the year, some of which have been carried over from the previous year. As for all network development proposals, I would take the opportunity to point out that for any proposals that require legislation or land, that is not always a given that we can guarantee their delivery with these variables, because we have to follow the statutory consultation process and give due consideration to any objections that might be received. This year, we are aiming to take forward a number of new schemes, including a junction improvement, missing link, infill footways, and controlled pedestrian crossings and guardrails. Some of these schemes include Scarborough Street Junction in Banbridge, which is due to start on site shortly in advance of the environmental improvement scheme for the area. Monaghan Road in Middletown is a pedestrian linkage to the Ulster Canal Greenway. And Main Street in Donaghcloney Puffin Crossing is already completed. The department is committed to delivery of active travel schemes to make walking, wheeling and cycling a safer and more active option for people getting around. As a result, approximately £450,000 of blue-green funding will be used to upgrade 5 kilometres of shared footway cycleway around Craigavon Lakes, which started recently and is listed on page 49. We do now have a new small blue-green team focused on delivering active travel measures. We will continue to liaise with Council to develop active travel proposals, and that these are aligned with active travel master plan proposals council may have for the area. Pages 49 to 53 explain a number of proposals for traffic calming, accessible parking bays, traffic signage, road markings, and speed limits. Moving on to section 4, pages 54 to 62 details our network planning and street lighting works in the area. Again, it starts off with identifying key staff and how to contact them. It then looks back and lists works undertaken in the previous year and looks forward to works planned for this year and our functions of development control, private streets, and street lighting. The department is a consultee to the council's planning function, and our network planning team provide a valuable contribution to the process in respect of roads matters. In addition, our private streets section deals with the adoption process for new developments, as well as enforcement matters, amongst other functions. In respect of street lighting, I am pleased to report that we have made good progress in delivering our street lighting schemes. The LED lantern retrofitting, seeing the replacement of older sodium lanterns. Over the past 4 years, we have retrofitted approximately 20,000 lantern heads, equating to approximately 55% of streetlights, which is out of 36,000 streetlights in the council area. The retrofitting programme will likely take a further 4 to 5 years to complete. Pages 59 to 63 detail the completed and proposed street lighting upgrade schemes, that being when columns, cabling and lanterns are life expired and are replaced. Amongst the areas that received LED lighting were Shillington's Bridge in Portadown, Lurgan Tarry Phase 2 in Lurgan, Ivy Drive Phase 2 in Banbridge, and Ardmore Link in Armagh. Pages 60 and 61 details the reporting on defective lights and how repairs are prioritised with regard to safety concerns, group outages, lights being on continuously, and finally individual outages. As we approach the end of the report, and as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, you will see on the back page, page 64, where we have collected for your convenience the key contact information for all of our main functions: network maintenance, network development, network planning, and street lighting. In conclusion, I trust that this has provided you with an insight to the works that we are delivering across the council area. Naturally, we would love to be able to be in a position to expand our work programmes, but the reality is that we are being faced with challenges of COVID and reduced resource budgets. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my presentation, and I am happy to address any questions related to the report.
I forgot to say welcome to our full council. I'm going to take some questions from members. We have a brief few on the list now coming through. Can I start off by thanking you for the report? It's very comprehensive. In terms of electrical points for electric cars, I've seen a report there in one of the local newspapers there last week that 60% of the points were not working. Is this something that you are looking at to overcome? And obviously going forward, is this something that you are looking to put at the top of your agenda in terms of more points and more accessibility for them?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I can take that away and find out. I do know we have a number of charging points on the road network and in car parks as well, so I can take that away and find out.
Thank you very much and appreciate that. I'm going to bring in the first speaker. Our first questioner is Councillor Hockian.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks again for the report. I will be brief. It's just something has occurred to me as you were speaking that I didn't get a chance to bring up at the clinic. It was a question around wildflower. I know that DFA have a substantial amount of land, and you referenced it there across the borough that you have to maintain. Myself and a number of my colleagues in Sinn Féin have asked the council over the past number of years actually to do some work around identifying areas that could be used for wildflower planting. And I'm not going to go into the benefits of it, but there are numerous benefits. I'm just wondering, is that something you've considered on the land that you maintain? And if you're not able to answer that tonight, is there any way you could come back to me and let me know if it is in consideration? And if not, could you consider it and maybe liaise with myself and a couple of my colleagues on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Huggy. I'm going to bring in Mark.
Yes, thank you very much. Great question. And actually only very recently, this has came to our attention as well. And we are currently looking at the options of taking forward the potential for a wildflower on verges. So there's currently work being done internally to establish how that could be done. I think it's a great idea. If we could do it, I think it would be good.
Thank you for that. Members, can I just remind you that this isn't a workshop for questions such as potholes, etc. Can we please stick to the agenda as we move forward? Councillor Pope, you're up next, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Mark, for your report, and good to see you again. I've got two questions this evening. The first one is on the A1 junctions, and it's good that the advanced ground investigations are substantially complete and the economic appraisal is progressing. I guess it's the last line a wee bit concerning in terms of the budget allocation to the department in future years. I mean, this is obviously disappointing, and it doesn't particularly give reassurance to users of the road. I mean, I know the Minister has previously said about expediting the proposals as soon as possible. Is it possible to give us a wee bit on timescale of the appraisal, and also in terms of the future years? I mean, what are we really talking about here? The second question is in relation to planning consultation responses. We often hear about delays in planning, in particular the planning consultation responses coming back in a reasonable time frame. So, Mark, if you could maybe confirm from your point of view whether you believe that you have adequate resources and staff in relation to that, because I know there are quite a lot of concerns out there in terms of getting, and I note as well that there's quite a high volume of applications at the moment requiring, responses, from DFI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pope. Going to bring in Mark.
Yes, thank you for asking the question about the A1. I think the first thing and the most important thing is the department are committed to delivering the A1, and we're doing everything in our power. It's certainly top of the division's agenda for pushing forward. And I know the department and the minister is committed as well to driving that forward. And as you said, that a lot of progress has been made with regard to moving on to the economic appraisal for it, and it's currently being undertaken at the moment. And also, of course, the direction order, stopping up order, was published in late July. And yes, the progression will very much depend on the outcome of the approval of the environmental appraisal, which is a Department of Finance approval process, and then confirmation of funding for the scheme in future years. I think those lines, those words are really reflective of the process, and not necessarily reflective of our commitment. I think we are committed to doing it. There is a 2021 spending review currently being undertaken, and hopefully that will determine in future years what money is available. But again, those decisions are very much for others. As a division, we're pushing it. I know the department are pushing it. I know the minister's pushing it. In terms of timescales, once we get confirmation of funding, I can't give you, it's difficult for me to give it a time frame of how long it will be until we get a commitment to funding. But in terms of after we get that confirmation of economic appraisal and the funding commitment, we can then push on with getting the contract documents ready, which will take 12 months. We can then push on with the procurement process, which will take 12 months. and then the construction period will take 2 to 3 years. Moving on to the planning consultation question. I am confident that my team, who are very competent and very experienced, to provide swift consultation responses. We have a full complement of staff. There's no vacancies. But you're right, there has been an increase in the number of applications, particularly over the COVID period, particularly the start of this calendar year. Not so much in this council area, but in others. And that is putting pressure on staff, and it causes a little bit of delay, but not a lot. But I have actually spoke to them last week about it, and they're confident to get through them. So I don't have any concerns. They're working very, very hard to get through them as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Councillor Pope. I'm going to move to Councillor McClelland.
Yes, Lord Mayor, thank you. And thank you, Mark, for your presentation. Lord Mayor, I want to raise briefly 3 broad issues. It'll be no surprise to Mark or to anyone else that the first one is around the rural roads, and specifically around the Rural Roads Fund that Mark mentioned in your report. You talked about an overall budget of 15 million. Have we got or can we have an indication how much of that will be allocated to Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon, please? So that's the very first thing. You don't need me to say it again. There is much need. I happen to represent a huge rural area, but you've heard that before. So just some indication around that. So that's the first thing. The second question I would have would be around the issue of the provision of boundary signage at the entrance points to ABC Council. It's something, Mark, that over the past couple or 3 months, I and colleagues have been raising with council officers, and there seems to be a consistency in terms of the feedback that we get, that one of the issues around the delay in the provision of this signage is DFI roads. So could you give us the benefit of some of your knowledge on that one, please? And the third one, Mark, that you mentioned was the new working practices with contractors and so on. And you talked about some of the challenges and so on. Well, I suppose my question is the new system actually working? Is the new system actually more effective in actually delivering on the ground? Because in the end, that's what you want. That's what we want. And we want the roads, the quality of our roads increased and so on. So just a few of your thoughts are around that would be useful, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm going to bring in Mark.
Yes, in terms of the 15 million Rural Roads Fund, I don't know how much of that fund is split into this council area, but I can find out, and the answer, whenever we respond back, we can provide that answer in the detail. In terms of the council area, in terms of overall structural maintenance funding, it is probably in the order of about, I'm guessing, 78 million. Not 78, 78. But I'll give you the ballpark figure for the 50. But I need to work it out and get the details from each of the section officers just to add that together. In terms of the poor condition of roads, yes. In rural roads in particular, yes. And it's very unfortunate. It's mainly boils down to to the number of years now we've had to work with a limited service, and that revolves around the resource funding for roads. The resource funding for roads replicates the funding used to fix potholes, as opposed to capital funding, which is used to resurface roads. There tend to be sorry, let me explain the limited service policy first. I mean, the limited service prioritizes our roads in terms of simple terms, more highly trafficked roads, which tend to be the higher class of roads as opposed to more rural roads. And because they're highly trafficked, they're higher speeds. And in those roads, we fix defects in 20 millimeters upwards. And we do that because of the risk that those defects cause, particularly due to the high speeds. When you go down to other rural roads where there's less traffic, traffic generally travels less speed, so it's less of a risk. And those defects are fixed generally over 50 millimeters. So that's just the criteria that's put in place for the policy. And what that effectively has done across the province, across all 4 divisions, has reduced the amount of spend in pothole spend in terms of resource funding. But that is replicated across other aspects too, like gully cleaning, grass cutting, weed spraying, etc. So there is a significant issue in terms of enough funding for resource to maintain our roads in good condition. And as time goes by, our roads are deteriorating. It is as simple as that. And next point, boundary signage. Yes, I am very aware, actually very recently, the issue of boundary signage has been raised with me. I have spoke to council officials about it today, actually, coincidentally. And yes, I am very aware that that officials in the council and my officials have been working together the last number of months to try and resolve the issue. So I am going to get myself involved into a meeting to try and move that forward, to get those appropriate locations identified for the signage to put up. Working practices with regard to contractors in relation to COVID is I actually am very pleased with the way things have worked over the last, particularly this calendar year. Things are working very well in terms of contractors on the ground and being able to put new practices in place to maintain social distancing. So yes, there's no issue from that perspective in terms of actual work being done on the ground. As you may be aware, there are other issues associated with work on the ground, and one of those is associated with structural maintenance, availability of structural maintenance contracts, which the Minister announced in the middle of June. So that's brought in a different agenda to the issue. But in terms of COVID, no issues, as far as I can see.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'm going to bring in Councillor Cosby now for your questions.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for your presentation this evening. Firstly, thank you for the work that's being done, particularly in my own constituency. I know Jervis Street has just been resurfaced. However, there still remains some work to be done there that has been left. So I'm hoping that'll be picked up fairly soon. Road service sometimes normally get a bad rap when they come here because response times and things like that can be very difficult. And I appreciate that you do have the clinics prior to the meeting. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, and I don't intend, Lord Mayor, to do my constituency work here this evening, believe me. But there are outstanding matters to which I have sent emails months ago as opposed to last week that have yet to be addressed. And that was an email sent on the 27th of the 7th, 21, to the generic email. Reference Montague Street, Portadown, the West Street footbridge and Craigavon Avenue. The following day on the 28th, I emailed regarding Craigavon Avenue again and flooding, and I got a brief holding response. And then very quickly after that, I understood that Desi, and appreciate you coming back to me in such a timely manner on that issue. But we're now almost into October, and there has still been no confirmation with me as to what is the plan for Craigavon Avenue. When we have two properties that flood every time there's a significant heavy shower, and they're still at a loose end as to what exactly is going to happen and what the process is as well. But the other query, if they could be followed up, I'd really appreciate that courtesy. But the other query is in relation to inspections following significant roadworks. And I'm thinking specifically the Armagh Road in Portadown and Kingsway Drive currently, who have now been tortured with utilities for at least 3 or 4 months. But how often during the works do road service go out and inspect the surface repairs that have been carried out to make sure they've been carried out to a sufficient standard, particularly in such a big project like that? Because the number of complaints coming in on that issue, Armagh Road and Kingsway Drive, are significant, and the condition of the sites that the contractors are leaving. Kingsway Drive, there was a very serious incident the other day which involved a child almost losing an ear and sustaining very serious injuries as a result of getting access to the sites there. So what inspections do road service carry out there, and what mitigations can they ensure that their contractors are putting in place?
Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. I know I had emailed in, I think about 3.5 months before a response came back, and I was after several reminders and several queries regarding it. So I'd just like you to address that one first. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll deal with the communication and then hand over to Desi with regard to the other questions about the inspectors. Yes, I mean, my first council meeting in January, I was asked a series of questions about the same thing, and I took an action away to meet up with the group leaders. I did that in the middle of June with Roger. I actually found that very, very helpful to get feedback. I do appreciate that that some correspondence is delayed, but to put it into context, I do apologise, of course, for any delays in correspondence. To put it into context, what we get in the division a year is 32,000 pieces of correspondence every year. It's a colossal volume with a staff structure that is depleted over the last number of years. We have tried to put a system in place to manage generic email addresses, and that has worked to an extent, albeit I agree that it's not 100% where it should be. I can really apologise again. What I have done over the last number of months is I have a number of admin staff now posts have been filled recently. Their task has been to monitor those generic email addresses and to do two things, and that's to make sure an acknowledgement is sent out, and that if a response hasn't been issued in 15 working days, then we will send a reminder to the staff involved to answer those queries, but also to send a query back to whoever has sent in the correspondence to acknowledge that we're still working on it. I appreciate that's not maybe not fully effective yet, but we are trying our best. I mean, the level of correspondence in Southern Division is twice as much as any of the other 3 divisions. We have no more staff to deal with it. And bearing in mind that the staff who are answering those questions, the people who are delivering the work as well, there's no centralized call center where we can just answer the queries without doing a lot of work and research involving the people who are delivering. So it is a mammoth task for us. So is delivering work. So I will just endeavour to continue to try and improve the system. I will again remind them about getting correspondence back in time, more timely manner. But I think the 2 things that I have found in particular is acknowledgement, actually saying thank you for your email and we'll get back to you. and actually providing feedback to say it's going to take longer because there's a lot more research needed and investigation needed into your query. I'll hand over to Desi.
Firstly, in relation to Craigavon Avenue, Craigavon Avenue, I was hoping to get Craigavon Avenue, the speed table removed during the works on Jervis Street. But unfortunately, that didn't work out just because there were two utilities through it, which was NA water and gas, which had to be lowered, which meant that we couldn't get them done at the time. But I can assure you now, we have had meetings with NA water. We have that end of it sorted out, and we intend to go in now and do the drainage works and have the speed table removed. Regarding the utility inspections, all of the utilities have a statutory right to enter the road, and there are many of them, as you're well aware, and we do inspect the work that they do. There are many more utilities digging tracks and roads than we have staff available to check them all the time. That one in Kingsway Drive that you had mentioned, if you'd like, I'll give you a ring tomorrow just to speak to you directly about that one. I'm not aware of what had happened there. Maybe if we could speak outside the meeting and discuss what happened.
Thank you very much, Desmond. I'm going to bring in Councillor Keaton. You had your hand up, but I'm not too sure if you're still about. Do you want to come in still? Because I have you down my list. Councillor Keating.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just picking up on the issue of the two link roads proposed in Armagh. It seems a bit like same old, and the longest of long fingers that has been pushed onto, and also the potential for the railway in Armagh. Is the local area putting a pressure on the minister to make sure that both of those potential projects are pushed up the agenda in the forthcoming transport review? The people in Armagh are absolutely, the transport right here, I'm sure you all know, is pretty catastrophic in terms of infrastructure. All of those projects are really badly needed, and we need to start seeing some progress in developing them. As long as I've been a councillor, which is nearly 10 years now, it's just the same plan, and it's the same paragraphs that we're met with. And are they likely to come to fruition anytime soon, or is this just another passing it down the road a bit? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Keaton. Going to bring in more to this.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm very aware of the two schemes, and my SRI team has been, as you're aware, developing those schemes to a point. They have been paused, particularly because of the RST and TP, and the draft document that's currently being prepared should be out to consultation either later this year or early next year. We very much need to wait until the outcome of that report to determine what the strategic priorities are across the whole network. And depending on that outcome will depend on where those schemes sit in all of the infrastructure, new infrastructure projects across the region. I think it's probably also worthwhile mentioning that the Mid-Southwest deal is included in it. Well, the Armagh East Link is included in it. I've personally been involved with Roger and the Minister in terms of meetings to push on and influence infrastructure in the area. And those two schemes have been particularly discussed as part of that deal. And there was a meeting recently last week, actually, just to talk through those issues. But that also included the rail, the need for the rail railway station in Armagh, as part of the All Ireland Rail Review as well that the Minister's pushing. So yes, we're doing our best. I think we have to wait to see the outcome of the RST and TP and see where it takes us.
Thank you, Councillor Keaton. Going to bring in Councillor Nicholson.
Thanks, Lord Mayor, and thanks, Mark and Desi, for your presentation this evening. And I suppose to start, Mark, yeah, thanks for obviously the meeting last week with the Minister. You know, that was very useful. And I think you did get a flavour that it is essential this borough, and in particular, you know, the Armagh city element is part of that strategic roads and rails consideration. There's a real need that we are in this area in those future plans, and I'm hoping that you, as sort of the roads representative of that area, you'll be pushing our borough as hard as you can to the Minister. I think we all had a good chat with her the other day, and I think she was left with no doubt of the importance, and I think she witnessed the problems we do have in Armagh City with traffic congestion, etc. And obviously with a City of Culture bid coming and things like that, all these things are going to add to that. And obviously from our perspective, the Mid-South West, yes, the east element of the link roads is part of that. And again, that for us is a real sort of economic driver. So it's not just about tarmac, it's about the economy, it's about building jobs, creating opportunities for the borough. So look, I appreciate that. Mark, a couple of smaller things that sort of I want to bring up and they weren't mentioned in your report. And I've mentioned to you before, a lot of developments within our borough were designed and built some time ago. And I've been having a lot of issues with people saying that, you know, you can't get emergency vehicles up our road, etc., etc. I would like your department from tonight just take away to maybe to have a review or even consider looking at those areas and to see if there's anything to be done to sort of create lay-by parking or something so that there's not a problem down the line with emergency vehicles, etc., getting into developments. There's a number, I'll email you a list of them of what I'm talking about, and I'll do that. The other one was the wildflowers. I think you look into councils in England, they're doing this already, and it really is worthwhile. It's something that our group have been sort of very much asking about throughout different council meetings, committees and things, and for some reason it hasn't really sort of got traction. And in relation to rural roads, I can totally see what you're saying and I understand, but one thing I would ask, there is small shoot-offs from rural roads, which when a road gets surfaced, they're kind of forgotten about. And there may only be 5 or 6 houses, but they do share the address. And I have to say, there's those people are continually frustrated when they see something happening out on the main road. And it wouldn't take a lot in my eyes when the guys are there to basically, because they are part of that road. And I do think there's a couple that I have, and I will bring your attention about of them. I've brought the attention to officers a couple of times, but I will bring it to your attention. But look, Mark, thanks for the presentation. And I have to say, as regards the development control element, road service are not the problem. Being a member of the planning committee in relation to with replies, they're one of the better ones. Unfortunately, there's others are worse. But to finish, Mark, my question would be about resources. And I heard you mention it a few times. If we had more people, is there any plan to get more resources into road service to deal with these things in a more efficient and a quicker manner, which I think you feel yourself you would like to do? So is there a plan in place in relation to employ more staff? Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. I'm going to bring in Mark.
Yes, I've got some notes. So very quickly, yes, please send me the list of locations for potential laybys. I think that's certainly something we can look into. It's a good idea. In terms of wildflowers, yes, we have looked at it. We're aware that England or mainland have put in place, or councils in the mainland have put in place wildflower areas. But the only issue we're looking at the moment, going into maybe too much detail, is how those wildflower areas are actually managed and cut. Because our system for cutting grass doesn't actually collect grass, because I think the wildflowers and the system for cutting grass needs a collection of grass cutting. So we haven't got the machinery for that at the moment. So it's more complex than just putting wildflowers in. So yes, but let us look into it. I'm very keen on it. I think it'd be a great addition to the road network. Rural roads. Yes, please send me your locations if you have issues with those rural roads. We'll have a look at them and establish the criteria for, sorry, the priority against for those roads against any other road in the area and see whether we can do something. With regard to resources, yes. I suppose it's an opportunity for me to say that the people who are in the Southern Division Roads team, certainly not. What can I say? I think the competence and the experience of the people in the team are outstanding for what I've seen in the few number of months that I've been in the post. It's not the people in post that's the problem, is that we don't have enough. And yes, there is discussions internally going on at the moment to establish what the numbers need to be, and discussions internally about how we should get them. So those discussions are happening with my director and the Deputy Secretary at the moment. So yes, there's...
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much for the questions, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Mitri.
And thank you, Mark, for coming tonight and to speaking to us. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to raise the issue of resources that you need with the Permanent Secretary and whoever else is concerned with that at Stormont. But I'm afraid I have to come back again to the issue of communication with yourselves. You did address us here, I think it was in January, and I'd be keen to know exactly what changes have been made from now to then, because when I use the system to report a fault, and I do use it, the problem is we get no feedback. We report the fault, away it goes. And, you know, unless we're going to run around our cars to check if a street light's been fixed or a pothole's been filled, we don't know. So that doesn't really work for elected representatives that well. I think I raised it at the time. What elected representatives really would benefit from would be a hotline to the office. Because while we have communications with the office, they're all emails, and a lot of them are generic, and we have one telephone number to the office, and we don't all have the time to be run around. Just in June, I actually made a report by email of a very simple issue in relation to extending double yellow lines. And I made that by email on the 25th of June, got a generic email back a few days later, heard nothing else, emailed again on the 6th of August, generic email back, emailed again on the 9th of September, generic email back, and 4 days later, I got a refusal. So it took 11 and a half weeks to get something that could have been sorted out, probably in a fortnight. I'd have found that acceptable. But I really don't think that's acceptable. And that's just one example. Sometimes your engineers, it's very difficult to get through to them and to get them to come back. Even by email, sometimes you're waiting in weeks. So I would ask you to take that away again, Mark, and look at it. And just to finish off, again, unashamedly, I raised with your colleague last week the issue of resurfacing Pines Park, Lurgan. It's obviously the worst street in Lurgan. I and elected representatives and predecessors and the Member of Parliament have all raised this and simply told last week it didn't reach the criteria. Well, I would want to extend the invitation either to yourself, Mark, or some of your officers to come out and meet with the residents and me on that site, because that development has increased over the years greatly from what it was originally, and it's not fit for purpose at all. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman. Mark, do you want to come back?
Just very quickly, to address your first question with regard to what improvements have been put in place for the communication, it's taken me a number of months to actually get to the bottom of what I think is the problem. And I think that, as I've said earlier on, the meeting that I had with the group leaders in the middle of June with Roger was very informative. And what I have put in place, although you may not have seen it, there has been more admin staff put in place since mid-July to monitor the generic email systems. I'm hoping that's improved our response times, but of course, there will be a number of correspondence that may still be delayed, and I apologize for that. The other second thing that I've done is talk to our digital services team to put in place, and I'll look at to see how the report of fault system can be improved, and that rather than it be based on a self-help basis, that is a number that's provided to the person who's logged the defect, and they have to go log the defect in again to use it to find what position the defect is in for its correction. Is that we're trying to change that system so it's more proactive, so it actually emails out a response as the defect progresses to it actually being fixed. It's difficult for me to put my finger on the communication side of things, other than two things. The volume that we get, it's immense. I can't overemphasize that. And the number of staff we have and trying to deal with everything at once, it's just impossible. A dedicated line, what it would force us to do is stopping the people who are delivering the work on the ground. It reduces the amount we deliver on the ground. That's effectively what it would do. And I appreciate that getting responses out in timely manner is important, but I also think it's important to get things done on the ground too. Pines Park,
Pines Park, Lurgan, as you said, it's not on our list for this year. I mean, I'm content to have it assessed for resurfacing. We'll get the fellows to look at it. You have to be aware it'll be assessed with many other areas which are in similar need, and we'll get back to you with the outcome of that assessment.
Thank you very much, Alderman Moodry, and thank you very much. Going to bring in Councillor Tennyson on Zoom.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Mark, for the presentation. I just have a quick question in relation to active travel. I know councillors are inundated by various campaigns with various active travel proposals, and I know the department's probably in the same boat in that regard. Some of the projects, like obviously the investment in the lakes, is carried forward by yourselves. There are other greenway projects that council will have some involvement in. But there are a number of campaigns, and I'm thinking, for example, the Bridge to Banbridge campaign, which is quite long running, as well as others across the borough, which don't sit on a council plan and aren't being progressed by the department at present. And really my question is, do you see any opportunity for greater joined up working between the council and DFI in order to identify those emerging opportunities and bring them forward? Or do you have any thoughts on how best campaign groups and councillors and others can get those kinds of projects onto the agenda and see them progressed? Because I know a lot of the campaigners seem a wee bit disillusioned that there have been petitions and everything presented and seem to be, hitting a brick wall every now and again, and the projects just seem to fall between the gap when it comes to the council and DFI. So just any thoughts on that would be really welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going to bring in Mark.
Yes, thank you. Great question. Since only June, I have had a new active travel team, a small team, but they're already delivering quite a lot across the division, including the lakes. I think what is easy to forget is the complexity behind the design aspects and preparations and consultation process to get things under the ground. It takes a lot of time and effort, and they can only do a number of schemes at once. So it does take time. That's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of planning for the future. Absolutely, this team is not just there to deliver, but it's there to plan for the future. And what I see in the next year or so is working with council alongside any master plans they might have for active travel measures, cycleways, etc., and to create linkages and to map that out across the whole division, so that we have a future plan to pick what schemes we want to do next. Active travel for me is not just this year or next year, it's many, many years to come. And to develop a program of work so that these linkages can be created is where I'd like to be. So yes, active travel is very much on the agenda for our minister and the division. And I'd like my active, my blue-green team, we call them, to work with council to try and map those active travel routes going forward. I think lastly as well, the minister has, and she said it last week at the meeting in Armagh, that if the council have bids to make for any future plans to develop, and importantly using the word to develop any schemes for the future, then they can make a bid to the active travel team in headquarters for funding to begin to put measures in place. That's the third one.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomason. Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Mark, for your report, and certainly welcome a lot of aspects of it, especially even another 20 mile an hour part-time signs outside the school there in Banbridge. There's 3 or 4 already benefit from those, and they're certainly welcome. But Mark, I suppose also as the point in record, my disappointment about day one, I think before I was ever on council, and the previous council, Lord Mayor, you probably know more than me on that one, but it was talk about this discussion about the A1 and some of the dangers that there's been and that it would move forward. I think it's been a long, drawn out process, and just wanted to let on record. But Mark, just a very small point on, you mentioned about the 38 gritters and 140 personnel and the amount of roads that were covered and the tons, but a very simple thing that happened, and it's happened quite a few times, is some of the side and the smaller roads where the piles of grit don't seem to be restocked before the winter time comes in. I know last year, especially thinking of some of the farmers that were in contact, where milk lorries couldn't get in and out, and they're more than willing to go out and spread it and do it themselves. But these seem to be, maybe if we could get them well stocked before the winter season comes in, I think I could raise it one of the meetings before and done it. But and just a final point there, and I agree with Councillor Nicholson who said about some of the smaller roads. In his opinion, wouldn't take much to finish. And even an example, there's Hunter's Hill, where we done a major part of that road the way up and then left, and not a very long section at the end of it there. So just things like that I had raised it before, and there's rationale given for it, but it just seems that some residents at parts of the road are left on it. So it's just to flag that, and especially the point there in the grid. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Greenfield. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. In terms of preparation for the winter season, yes, I know Desi and Kieran have already began restocking. I don't know if you want to expand on that, Desi.
My understanding at the minute is that in my area, in Banbridge, Craigavon, all of the salt boxes have been replenished already, and they're now working on the grit piles.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring in Alderman Spears.
Lord Mayor, I'll try and be as brief as possible. Number one, I want to follow on the point that was raised by Alderman Moutray in respect of communications and the way we as public representatives are communicated with. And I have a very good relationship with the staff in the section office, speak to them on phone, whatever. I haven't any great problem in that respect. But as far as putting in complaints about potholes or various things or gullies or all these sort of things, the mechanism for getting information back is not working. This council did discuss this in the past, and I'm not sure whether it was intended to be better. I suspect when we talked about it, we assumed that it would be better or could be better, but it's not any better. And that needs to change. Someone made reference when I was speaking to road service about the amount of complaints they get. Understood. The amount of complaints that councillors forward equally would be a lot smaller, And I think we are entitled to, as representatives, we are entitled to a different response than ordinary members of the public. I never ask for anything for myself. I seek it for those who I represent. And I think in this instance, we are not getting it, the information necessary. And I'll leave that there. It has to improve. It can't remain the same. Second point is road bonds and unfinished roads within developments and shared surface sites. Now, there's a number of these, and I've been dealing with some of them in recent times. And the ownership and the bonds in relation to both those, in my opinion, bonds are only viable when they're economic to the day. Once time moves on, they are no longer economically viable to fit the purpose. And I would ask that action is taken to remedy that, for I know of some situations where it doesn't work. Thank you for your report. I went through it and you give a fair synopsis of the various points in it. Reference was made to by someone in respect of the roads network proposed in around Armagh City. May I say to you, and Councillor, I think it was Keating referred to it, he's 10 years on the council. I'm a few years longer, but I can tell you the East Ring Road of Armagh was on the 1974 area plan. There was a bit of it completed, implemented by the Housing Executive, another bit of it implemented by Invest NI, and there are two reasonable stretches, two small stretches in between, but progress hasn't been great from 74. I'll leave it there. The final point in terms of forward planning and lobbying, I mentioned previously in respect of the need for a roundabout as one emerges from Market Hill, particularly if you're emerging to head to Newry, and you have to cross two very busy lanes of traffic. Now, I witnessed on Saturday evening, I have a sister lives in there, and I witnessed whereby there were 17 cars waiting to emerge from Newry Street onto a very, very busy road. That's a recipe for accidents, for people taking a chance to get away or to get out. They were sitting for minutes. And I've asked this previously, and I didn't see it on the report, but at an earlier occasion, one of your previous officers did indicate they would investigate it and come back to me. They may have investigated it, but they haven't come back to me, and that I would seek. Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Do you want to respond to some of that, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, in terms of communication, again, I'll go back and have a look at it again, do my very best. But I think really it boils down to having more people and trying to manage a very vast number of correspondence cases. In terms of a dedicated line for communication for elected reps, again, to do that would compromise the delivery on the ground. At this point in time, it's not a proposal it's not something that we're going to take forward. In terms of the Newry Street and to investigate the queuing traffic, yes, I'll have a look at that again. I would expect that assessment has been done. I'm disappointed they haven't come back to you if that's the case, so I'll chase that up.
Thank you very much, Alderman Spears. Going to bring in Councillor O'Hanlon on Zoom.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Mark, for your presentation this evening. And also thank you for the opportunity to meet last week with the Minister in connection with the Mid-South-West Growth Deal Group and our discussion around the Armagh East and West Link Roads and the All-Island Strategic Rail Review. And, you know, I think it's important that we do press for the inclusion of both Armagh East and West Link Road, because both projects need to be taken forward together. They are more than just about moving cars from A to B or around the city. To me, they're a key economic driver for the city and for the region going forward. Can I just ask, in relation to the much publicised issues in relation to procurement within the department, how much of an impact that has had in relation to resurfacing schemes locally? How much of an impact that has in terms of how many schemes have been stopped or put on hold or haven't been able to take forward in this year because of that? And then secondly, if I could ask you to come back to us with an updated list of any schemes that the department are considering under the Blue and Greenway schemes for our council area. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Hanlon. Mark, do you want to come in? Thank you.
Thank you. The Armagh East and Northwest links, again, the RSTNTP, will pull together the strategic benefits, economic benefits of the schemes, either singular or together, combined. The conclusion of that will be in that report. In terms of procurement aspects in Southern Division, excuse me, this council area hasn't been affected too much. You'll be aware of the Minister's announcement in the Assembly on the 15th of June that outlined the problems that the Department have had, or the legal challenge that the Department have had in terms of the issuing of a number of resurfacing contracts throughout the 4 divisions. One of those is in Southern Division, but it's not in your council area. However, it is going to affect this council area in a few months' time, because the renewal contract is not yet let, and that there's a new strategy being put in place to streamline the process to try and prevent the need, or prevent legal challenges going ahead in the future. That new strategy is being put to the market in terms of consultation to the market, and I think the responses are back to allow that strategy, hopefully the strategy, to go ahead. But yes, there are problems in procurement. There's no doubt about that, and I think it's just the marketplace at the moment. You know, there's a lot of challenges around, but we're doing our best to deliver what we can. In terms of blue-green projects going forward, again, the new blue-green team, I've asked them to sit down and map the division and identify what schemes that we need to deliver next financial year. So we will be doing that. So we don't know what schemes we're going to do next year yet. We're also very busy delivering what we're doing this year. So there's 2 challenges in there: to get this year's done and to map out the future years' programs.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question there. Councillor Savage, you're up next. You've been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Mark, thanks very much for your report, detailed report here tonight. I'm not going to rehearse a lot of stuff that has been said. I put my points in last week to the working group, but the rural roads is a big concern. Enough has been talked about tonight about that, so it's a big concern of mine. But I suppose we've been alarmed about the A1 upgrade. The A1 upgrade, and It's some 20 odd years ago that the late Drew Nelson raised concerns about this, and yet we're still talking about this upgrade, and we're still wondering if there's a budget for it or not, especially when engagement with landowners and all has taken place over the last few years. And, you know, we need to speed this process up. You know, people have lost their lives along that stretch of the road, and that has to be a priority. So it is. On to another point too, we've heard a lot about ring roads and bypasses and all here tonight. A number of years ago, there's plans in place for a bypass in Dromore. Is that still alive, dead in the water, or what? Perhaps you'll come back to me on that. Another concern, in one of our villages, the resurfacing work that was carried out by contractors. And after the work was carried out, there was a major sewage flood within the village. Whenever the investigations were, oh, sorry, hold on. Oh, sorry. Didn't realize the North Channel button in here. Anyway, whenever investigations were done with Northern Ireland Water, there was found to be traces of tarmac and all that had fallen into the sewage system that caused the flooding. That's not good enough. And your contractors need to be up to a standard. If they're not fit to do that job, they shouldn't be doing it. They should be held responsible for that, for the major flooding issues in and around that village. I'd like you to come back to me on that at some stage, Mark, please. Thank you. But look, it's been a long presentation here tonight, so I thank you for your time. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. Members, can I remind just whenever people are talking to please keep the noise level down in the background, because there's nothing more off-putting. Mark, do you want to come back there? Or are you happy enough to note them and come back to Councillor Savage?
We can note, we can take a note of them. I'll chase up the Dromore bypass. I'm not sure of the answer. It hasn't come up in my time here, only 9 months, but I can chase that up, and we'll chase up the village flooding as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duffy, do you still want to come in?
No, it's all right. There's questions been sort of answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Catherine Nelson, do you still want to come in?
Yes, please,
Okay,
Lord
go
Mayor.
ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and to your officers for being available this evening for the report, and also for being available for the clinics last week, which allowed us to raise some of our more localised issues. I wasn't going to put my hand up because I feel like a bit of Groundhog Day, because I say this every year annually. So this is 4 times now in the last 4 years that I've raised this point of communication that Alderman Moutre also raised. It's very frustrating because we waste so much time as elected reps sending email after email, re-logging issue after issue on the portal to get nothing but radio silence. And as I said at the clinic, I don't mind if the answer's no, but the people that contact me require an answer. And when we don't get one from you, we can't give that back. And that looks like we're not doing our job when we absolutely are. Recently, I've had to resort to tactics, Mark, as you know, such as emailing yourself, emailing the private office, and I've seen other reps use social media. We shouldn't have to resort to those tactics. As elected reps with a mandate from the electorate, we should be prioritised. I understand you're saying tonight that that's not going to happen, the phone line's not going to happen, but I would ask that you consider in the department of appointing someone, perhaps look at our young students who are just out of school and an apprenticeship opportunity for someone to come in and act as a liaison officer with elected reps. I find it very frustrating that we don't get site meetings as well. We're refused them constantly. An email will never show you an issue that is being experienced by people who are trying to get an update on a rural road, be it a bus stop, or a crossing or a safe footpath. No email will ever illustrate as much as a site meeting. So I understand that you're saying it's not something you're going to take away, but I would really urge you to reconsider an actual role so that you're not diverting someone away. And I know you're saying that would take away from the work on the ground. In the clinics that I went to last week, the issues that were on my list last week were issues that were on my list last year. Some of them complex, but some of them, like grit boxes, the requesting of grit boxes that I've had no response to from last winter, that's unacceptable. That's not an officer out in the ground not responding to elected reps because they're so busy. So I really would urge you to consider. Would just say that maybe you could look at the likes of the lighting department to get back to us fairly quickly. I don't know if Chris Doherty has took on a particular role in this area, But I have to say, since he has come on board, I've noticed an improvement, but it's certainly not where it should be.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Mark, do you want to come back? Are you happy to note? I'm happy to note. Thank you, Councillor Nelson. And Alderman Burns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and it's possibly more the same. Disappointed about the length of time the A1 is taken to upgrade. I have been here long enough to remember all the discussions that took place during Banbridge Council time, and I travel part of the A1 dual carriageway every day, and it is accidents waiting to happen because people are taking chances, pulling out in front of vehicles at crossover points. So I think that is an absolute priority. Number of times I've had to comment on deaths on the road of accidents that have happened. It is like a motorway, but it is, people treat it like a motorway, but it is actually a dual carriageway, and it is an accident waiting to happen. So I do hope that a priority is given to that. And another thing was there is, like Alderman Spears said earlier on, there's been a link road from the Lurgan Road right up to the Newry Road that has been on the plan since I came to council in 1983, and nothing has ever happened to it. And I know that there's land blighted and has been blighted for all that time and before that. Surely, if this road isn't going to take place, it should be taken off the agenda, and this land taken, or let the people take the blight off it so that they can do something with it. I can't see where the road's going to go now, because a lot of the place where it was supposed to go is built up on. So if it's not going to be used, it should be taken off the agenda. And just to carry on the last point from Councillor Nelson and others who have made the point, communication is absolutely abysmal. It's okay for somebody who phones in and asks for something, but we have to go back to the people who asked us the questions. I have taken this past while to writing to the minister when I don't get an answer from the local office, and I will continue to do so. It's not good enough. I know other government departments wouldn't get away with it, with leaving the 15-day. Once I get the 15-day one, I laugh because I don't know when I'm ever going to get a response. Now, sometimes you do, if you're lucky. Sometimes you don't. But it's not good enough. And I agree with Councillor Nelson there that we should be afforded a site meeting on some of the dangerous junctions or whatever that we're talking about. Somebody will go out and have a look at it when we're not there. But if they're going to spend time at it, they could at least say, we're going out, do you want to come out and meet us there? That's just all I have to say. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Burns. Duly noted, Mark. Thank you very much, members. And that's the end of your questioning. Can I thank you very much and your officers for coming on tonight. Kieran, you get off lightly there at home on Zoom. But there is a recurring theme there, Mark, and you kind of, hopefully you're going to take it away and hopefully action onto it. Because end of the day, councillors are campaigners, and we're here to champion for you, and that's what we're here to do. We want to work with you, but as you can see, the frustration on councillors right throughout the different political divide, that it is give us an answer at least. So no, thank you very much, and I appreciate you giving up your evening, and hopefully we'll touch base soon enough. Okay, thank you very much, and safe home. Okay, members, we're going to go to agenda item 5, committee minutes. Can I seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the Planning and Regulatory Services Committee held on the 1st of September 2021 be taken as read and approved as a correct record?
Happy to propose, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lavery, and seconded by Councillor Nicholson. Are we all agreed? Thank you, members. Agenda item 5.2. I seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the Environmental Services Committee held on the 7th of September 2021 be taken as read and approved as a correct record. Proposed by Alderman Kennedy. Councillor Baxter. Are you on the committee, Councillor Baxter? You are indeed. Thank you very much. Second by Councillor Baxter. We all agreed? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Baxter.
Just a very quick matter arising, Lord Mayor. EDR 120 was just in terms of the we talked briefly about the HGV drivers and the crisis we have, even within our own department. Just looking at the broader aspect of it, and I know a bit of work's been done with the head of economic development in terms of the labour market partnership. And there's a strand of that fund. I think the council has applied for 330,000 pounds from the Department of Communities. And I know one strand of that is to maybe upskill and train people throughout the community, maybe to get an HGV licence, because it's a very costly licence to get. I think it's something like $2.5 grand to put you through the HGV licence. And we're at crisis point at the minute, I think, across the community. And I know Nicola Wilson has been doing some work around it. Maybe we get a bit of an update on that. I don't know if she's in a position to do it tonight or even if she's on Zoom. It's just in terms of that particular strand, how that will look. And is that really just for business to upskill people in their own business? Or would that be looking at us rolling out a grant program across the community or opening some sort of strand to try and get people into employment and to go across to the HGV, where we know there's a countrywide shortage at the minute? I just want to know how that looks. I'm happy, maybe even if somebody gives me a call tomorrow about it or circulates it out to members. But I think it's a very important thing and very timely, actually, at the minute, due to the crisis that we're in.
Thank you very much, and very well put. Yes, I spoke to Roger there. We're going to come back to you tomorrow with that answer, so we can get a proper response for it. Councillor McClellan on Zoom.
Yes, Lord Mayor, thank you for letting me in, and I will be very brief. And that's just to raise again something that a couple of members raised when the DFI folks were there, and that is the Road Verge pilot project 2020, in terms of what our council was taking forward in terms of planting the areas in wildflowers at the various locations across the borough. Can we have an update?
You can direct me to where that is in the minutes, please.
Lord Mayor, I was begging your indulgence, and the only reason I was raising it here is that it was under the broad environmental, but I'm happy if you're ruling it out. That's grand, Lord Mayor, no problem, thanks.
Okay, no, you'll have planning or the committee to bring it up in anyway. Thank you, Councillor McClellan. All agreed, members? Thank you. 5.3, seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the Governance, Resources and Strategy Committee held on the 8th of September 2021. Be taken as read and approved as a correct record.
Happy to propose, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McClelland, and Alderman Twyble, second by Alderman Twyble. And Councillor Cosby, go ahead.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It'll be no surprise that I'm raising an issue that was graciously permitted for discussion at the governance working group just last week, the week before, under any other business. And it is in relation to the membership of working groups across the council. And I raised a solution to rectifying what I see as being a democratic deficit on them, on the working groups. Now, others may think that I'm trying to get myself a place on them all. but I already have that placed on them all, as far as I'm aware, and have been advised. So this is by no means any ploy on my part to get onto all of these working groups. Believe me, I have plenty of things to be doing without being on every single working group across the council, I can assure you, and I don't have the time of the day to do them all. However, I raised the issue because a number of the working groups, if not all of the working groups, are taken up by a majority of both Sinn Féin, the SDLP, and thirdly, the Alliance Party, which actually is the opposite of what the political makeup of this chamber actually is. And I see that as being a democratic wrong in this council forum. I can't see a situation where in any other council that is controlled by one particular grouping or another, where they would allow a situation that those who designate different than them would be in control of working groups. Now, I accept that, yes, they are working groups, but we know the significant amount of work that has been done in them and how influential they have been over the mandate, the 2.5 mandates of this council now. I raised the issue of a way forward, that we would run to hunt for positions on those working groups. And I was advised that they would need to check the legalities of that. So if you beg or bear by indulgence, Lord Mayor, I would direct your attention to agenda item 3.3 of the Governance Policy and Resources Committee of the 5th of October 2016. And paragraph 3.3.2 of that states very clearly, the Local Government Act does not specify any restrictions or guidance on the governance or operation of working groups. Part 4, Section 7 of the Act outlines arrangements for the discharge of functions of the Council by a committee, a subcommittee, or an officer of the Council. The formation and operation of working groups is a matter for each individual council. It is therefore important to note that the distinction between working groups and subcommittees is that the setting up of a subcommittee is a formal process and has to use an agreed method. It implies, therefore, that working groups do not. Working groups are normally appointed for a limited term to focus on issues of particular concern. Our council has used working groups to deal with a number of important operational issues rather than going down to the more formalised route of subcommittees. The issue is that the makeup of working groups is a matter for the council. In light of that report and information, that it is clear to me that we don't require any legal input whatsoever other than to have the issue raised. It was raised in governance and brought to council for decision or for ratification, depending on the decision or recommendation of the committee. Of course, you'll not be surprised to note that I don't agree with the recommendation from the committee. And I'm sure that others will have their own view on this, and I accept that they're entitled to do so. However, the situation we find ourselves in is quite a unique one. Standing orders only legislate for mandatory committees, so there is no formal process, and it is very clear to me that we can do and appoint working groups as we so please, based on the report in 2016. The matter of, and you beg my forgiveness, I've lost my train of thought. I'm sure you find that hard to believe, but
Lord, point of order on the timing here. We had a lengthy discussion about this at the Governance Committee, and the recommendation is to revisit it at the next.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Lord Mayor. And when somebody raises a point of order, they should address the point that they believe is to be raised. But you said lengthy discussion. You put me back on my train of thought, Councillor Mackel. Thank you so much. Because the issue is around whether this item could be called in, and of course it could be under process. However, in the papers from 2016 and the council papers and the minutes of the meeting that took place, there was less than a half a page of discussion minuted for the item. However, at governance last week, there were 6.5 pages worth of discussion about this matter, and it has been discussed more in the last week than it has ever been discussed in the length of this council. So I see that the process has been duly followed. And so therefore, I would recommend that we don't accept the recommendation of the committee, but that we would move to reconfigure the working groups and run the working groups as I set out at that stage. That is, that you run the hunt for 10 places in line with what we do with the PCSP, and that the Alliance Party and that Councillor Barry as an independent would be given their voice there as well. That would equate to 3 members from the DUP, 3 members from the Ulster Unionist Party, 3 members from Sinn Féin, 1 SDLP, 1 Alliance, and the independent Paul Barry. Now, it's up to everybody else if they so wish to have me on that. But however, whether I am or whether I'm not, this is about correcting a democratic disgrace on this council. And therefore, I would make that a formal proposal this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. I'm going to bring in Councillor Tennyson on Zoom.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and this was an issue that was discussed at Governance Committee without notice. So I've had some time to go and think about it, though I'm conscious that other members who don't sit on Governance Committee won't actually necessarily be familiar with all of the issues that Councillor Cosby has raised. I don't dispute that the makeup of our working groups is a matter for ourselves as a council, and that is why we propose that we push it then either to the Governance Committee or to the relevant group to consider. I would like to take some legal advice because, yes, Councillor Cosby has quoted legislation. There's also potentially, I don't know, I'm not a solicitor, case law to consider, and I'm not really content resting upon Councillor Cosby's legal wisdom on this. There's also governance considerations. So our internal audit department might actually have some thoughts in terms of best practice in terms of our governance as well. The working groups, it's important to remember, are not decision-making bodies. They are consultative bodies where ideas and issues are ran past parties. I think there is an issue in terms of the representation of independents on those. But I mean, I think this is quite a cynical attempt actually to reduce the Alliance Party's representation on the council. So every other party gains. The SDLP actually would lose. It's a cynical attempt to remove one of their members as well. And Councillor Cosby would gain representation. As smaller parties, we sit on a greater number of working groups, so sometimes we're stretched more so than the larger parties in terms of our ability to attend because we have different clashes. So having 2 members enables us to ensure that the party is represented at every single working group and that our point of view can be heard. So I do have serious consideration or serious concerns about the proposal on the table. I'm also not sure what the process is. I mean, in terms of, so you'd run the hunt for 10 and then ad hoc, you would just add on 1 from any other grouping. That's not proportionate. That doesn't, to me, follow through, and you'll have different makeups in different chambers down the years. So I don't think it's actually a sustainable model. So yeah, as I said, number of issues. There is one potential way forward. And look, I'm fully aware that other parties will not have had an opportunity to consider this. So I fully understand if others wish to push this to the working group in line with the original recommendation. But as I am conscious that Councillor Cosby and Councillor Barry are not necessarily, well, I think Councillor Cosby still is under the DUP grouping from the election, entitled to be represented in the working group. But I am conscious that independents generally are not. So is it possible that we would just retain 2 representatives from each party, plus then 1 from any other independent grouping? So, you know, you would count Councillor Barry and, you know, another independent as 2 separate independent entities. So independent. So basically it'd be 2 from each party plus independent councillors. And that way everybody has fair representation. I can't foresee there being any issues, although obviously I would like to get reassurance from that on officers and maybe take further advice. But I think that solves the issue. And I have to say, I take exception. I mean, Councillor Cosby grouped together 3 parties and said that they have a majority. Any 3 parties would have a majority in a working group, but at the end of the day, we don't vote and we don't take decisions. So the majority or not is totally irrelevant. It's about making sure people are fairly represented. And as I say, removing a member from a smaller party would actually have more of an adverse impact than it would removing a member from a larger party, because members from smaller parties have more working groups to attend. So this hasn't really been thought through from the perspective of a small party, and I don't actually believe it's particularly conducive to good governance. So that would be my counter proposal, that we would proceed with 2 from each party grouping plus any independent councillors, and I think that would be sustainable going forward. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tennis. I'm going to bring Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I suppose I've always been an advocate that working groups, and I've said it before, should be representative of the makeup of the council. They're quite clearly not, and I think it probably came to a head and really came to light in a working group recently when it was first set up for the Northern Ireland Centenary, where it's 2 from each party, but it's also the chair of the relevant committee. So on the Northern Ireland Centenary Committee, the Alliance Party had 2 of their members there, plus they had the chair of development. So they had 100% of their party on board in a working group, where the DUP, as the largest party in council, had 20% of our party. So to me, that's grossly unfair. And as Councillor Tennyson said, yes, it's not a decision-making body, but the discussions in a working group are fairly informal. And the discussions that we have really form the papers that come to council and come to committee for discussion. So if the Alliance Party have 100% of their voice on that working group, for example, I use them as an example, it could be any party, and we have 20%. Obviously, they have a far louder voice on that committee than we do, and that shapes the recommendations that come to committee. So I think Councillor Cosby makes a very valid point. And I'm quite happy to second Councillor Knowles, or sorry, not Councillor Knowles, Councillor Cosby's proposal. And I think, you know, it's the same with every party. You know, we could all come back as a smaller party. And I think the fair way to do it is to hunt, as been mentioned previously, the way we do on PCSP, and I think that works very well. I think it's a no-brainer, actually, to second the proposal tonight. I think it's a common sense way forward. It's representative of the council, and in fact, I think anything else is an insult to the electorate who put us in these positions in the first place and make the very makeup of the council. And I think anything else is just clutching the straws, really. So very happy to second the proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baxter. Yeah, Councillor Cosby, can I just confirm your proposal? Is it to run the hunt plus? Can you confirm there, please? I'll bring you in now.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. It is just in line, as I articulated at the Governance Committee, and that is for 10 places. And the reason I used that was to then give the Alliance Party a place plus Councillor Berry. And I'm not precious over a place myself. I let others make that decision. But the purpose for that is very simple. It is to make sure that the committees remain of a similar size as they currently are made up as well. So that's why I thought 10 in line with what we do for the PCSP, and then add Councillor Berry and the Alliance Party. And if others so wish for another independent member to be added, then that gives us the desired political makeup that is reflective of the democratic wishes of the electorate. And I would suggest that anybody who is prepared to allow the democratic decision of the electorate to be reversed by working groups, then I would suggest they have some explaining to do to those who put us here.
Thank you very much for explaining that. I'm going to bring in Councillor Hanlon, please, and then Councillor Spears.
Thank you, Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, we have parts of our borough haven't had recycling collections emptied in 3 weeks. We have people who are worried about leisure services and some who have complaints about some of the issues that impact upon the services we provide as a council. And we're sitting fighting in a bun fight over how many people sit on a working group, groups who don't have decision-making authority, who are basically consultation groups that happen outside the committee structure, which then papers come through the committee structure. There is no democratic deficit. The only thing that I would say in relation to Councillor Tennyson's proposal, my understanding, that's what is there at the minute. That is the status quo, in that it's 2 from each party and the 2 independents can then attend. You know, I, like Councillor Tennyson, I'm on a lot of those working groups. My problem is we very rarely get full attendance at any of them. So never mind cutting down attendees. I would be thinking that we should be trying to encourage more people to take part, because they are good sounding boards. They're good opportunities to have conversations around the wide range of issues that council is involved in. And, you know, I don't see anybody being turned away from any of them because of a lack of interest. In fact, the issue is more trying to get people to actually attend the working groups. I would be keen to hear the Chief Executive's thoughts on this to see where his view is on it. But personally, I believe we have a hell of a lot more important issues to be getting on with than working on the intricacies of standing orders and trying to get one-upmanship and trying to cut people out of committees. I would propose the recommendations as before, so move on. But I'd be keen to hear the Chief Executive's thoughts.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hull. I'm going to bring the Chief Executive in after Alderman Spears. Unless, of course, you want to hear the Chief Executive first. Do you want to come in now, Alderman Spears, or do you want to hear the Chief Executive first?
Lord Mayor, just in relation to this, I think we need to have maybe a slightly wider look at where we have been in some of these things. I've been a member of a number of working groups, working parties in this council over the years. And if one wanted to reflect on attendance, it would reflect very badly as regards members' attendance at them. So I don't think working groups are necessarily the best mechanism to judge how this council operates. But I did read the discussion that had taken place at the committee, and I see the recommendation in that, and I have no particular problem in that, no particular problem in the recommendation of the committee. And in fact, I would support it, and I would ask this council to support it. I know that there is a meeting of the governance subcommittee called for the 4th of the month, and that I suspect is prior to the next governance committee meeting. Now, I'm not privy to the agenda for that special governance meeting, but I realize that there is an issue here, folks. It's something that has obviously come to a head primarily since Councillor Crosby departed from the DUP, but maybe that's another story. But leave that out. There is an issue that has got to be looked at. It's a wider issue, really, and I refer to some other working groups or other committees or not committees. There was a committee whereby there was 3 members from every party on it, and I'm not sure whether the chairman of the relevant committee was on that or not. So I believe that in looking at this issue, it is potentially a wider issue, and I think we do need to look at that. And reference was made in the minutes about legal opinion. I'm not so sure legal opinion really affects this in any great way. I think working groups, in my opinion, the size of them are literally a rule of this council. And this council has always tried to operate on the basis of inclusion, try and be as inclusive as possible. And I would like to think that, bearing in mind where we are, that we would continue to do that. But there is a need at the same time to reflect the democratic position within the council. But I would ask that when it goes back to the committee, and I would make a proposal that we do accept the minutes of the committee and that it does go back, and that during the interim between now and then, the officers of this council would engage with the various parties in relation to try and work out a way whereby we can move forward on this. I don't think it's absolutely tablets of stone that a working committee is 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever. I think there are ways and means, if we have the will to do it, there are ways and means that this committee, this council can be reflected in the democratic way that its members are, and at the same time be fairly inclusive for others within the council. And I would say that in the context of it going back to the committee, working with the relevant officers prior to that to come up with something that most councillors can buy into. But in the interim, I would propose that we accept the committee minutes and task our officers to work their way through the various options that we could adopt as a result of meaningful discussion. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Alderman Spears. I'm going to bring in Chief Executive, and then Councillor Michael, you're up next.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and good evening, members. I mean, you'll know that there was a good debate about this the other evening at the Governance and Resources Working Group, as there has been this evening. The point I was making at the committee meeting, members, was that, and it will come as no surprise, the preference for the officers is that you have a paper in front of you, that you're able to look at all of the issues and consider them to make sure that any decision that you make is a good, safe, sound decision. I don't know whether there are issues about making the change or whether there aren't, and that was the reason for saying that. And certainly one of the issues for me was that we have a variety of working groups and there are differences in sizes. I know the one Alderman Spears is referring to was the one that was looking at special projects. 3 councillors were put on that because there was one to represent the Armagh area, one to represent the Craigavon area, and one to represent the Banbridge area. So there were reasons for it, and for me, members, it is important that you consider the whole host of issues, and there could be operational and practical matters that need to be taken into consideration as well. So that is the reason why at the committee meeting, members, I suggested you can have a report come to council meeting this evening. That wasn't the view of the committee. The view was that the report would come to next month's governance committee, and that's the recommendation that is in front of you, and you're obviously having the debate this evening. In terms of timeline, there is a working group meeting scheduled for the 4th of October. The committee meeting is on the 13th of October, and full council meeting is then obviously the 4th Monday of next month, Lord Mayor. So it is a matter for members. Members have said a lot of things that are absolutely correct. Working groups do not make decisions. The working groups do not have a statutory formula. It is a matter for members to do that. But officers being officers, we would prefer you to have a paper that details and flushes out all of the issues to make sure that you make a decision. I think it is right and appropriate that there is a review of the working groups. We've had them now for 6 years, 7 years, so it's not inappropriate. But it's about making sure that you make a decision that is the best for the council. So, Lord Mayor, that's, I suppose, my take on where we're at. I'm conscious that you do have a proposal from Councillor Cosby that's been seconded by Councillor Baxter. You did have Councillor O'Hanlon Councillor Tennyson did make a proposal that wasn't seconded. You had a proposal from Councillor O'Hanlon to accept the recommendation. You also had a proposal from Councillor Alderman Spears supporting the recommendation but tasking officers. So that those last two are perhaps variations on a theme. Lord Mayor, that's I suppose where I would stand. I'm not sure whether Sharon McNichol, the Strategic Director, has anything further to add.
Speak here. Sean, do you want to come in and add some value, and then I'll bring in Councillor Maggle. And thank you for holding fire there, Councillor Maggle.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. No, I would just agree with the comments made by the Chief Executive that clearly if we were to have the opportunity to present to members, all of the various options and the thinking behind those, that members could make an informed decision.
Thank you very much, Sean. I'm going to bring you in now, Councillor Maggle, on Zoom.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think as the Chief Executive has identified, Councillor O'Hanlon and Alderman Spears have both more or less proposed that we accept the recommendation. So I'm happy to second both proposals. I don't think that any of the parties would have any difficulty with both independent members joining any working group that they wish to join. I don't think there's an issue with that at all. I do find it quite comical to listen to Councillor Cosby, who was elected as a DUP councillor, who's now an independent and hasn't resigned his seat, talking about respect for the electorate and democratic deficits. If Councillor Cosby believed in what he was saying, he would have stood down from council, but he didn't.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maggle. Alderman Spears, I'm conscious that you made a proposal and so did Councillor O'Hanlon, but though Councillor O'Hanlon did make it first, are you happy to second Councillor O'Hanlon's with your addition to it, or? Hang on. Go ahead, Alderman Spears.
I can't recall how Councillor O'Hanlon's proposal was.
Lord Mayor, they were the one and the same. Work with the recommendation that's in the paper, and the Chief Executive has outlined a process which committee discussed, working group discussed, and it'll be back to council next month, having gone through the internal processes in council.
Okay. Anyway, we have the first proposal on the floor anyway, which is Councillor Cosby, which was seconded by Councillor Baxter, that we run with the Hunt plus one independent plus the Northern Ireland, or the Alliance Party for Northern Ireland. So we're going to run with that, and the question being now put. Sorry, Councillor Tennyson, you looking back in?
Yeah, no, thank you, Lord Mayor. Just quickly, I just want to withdraw my proposal. I'm happy with the recommendation. I think it is important that we take time to consider the officers' input and advice, and that there is an appraisal done. One quick point just before we do go to a vote. I am concerned that there's been a bit of a pattern, and obviously in 2019, notices of motion were limited. I viewed that as an attempt to muzzle smaller parties. And again, now we have this proposal on the floor, which to me seems like a cynical attempt to reduce the representation of smaller parties. So I just wanted to put that on the record, and I would absolutely want to discuss the issues and review the working groups, but I think it's appropriate that we take officer advice and that it follows proper process. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie noted. And the question they be put were they on a recorded vote has been called just on time. So the question is now put that we go with, we run under the Hunt, which is 10 places, similar to the PCSP with Independent and Alliance Party for Northern Ireland. So I'm going to bring in Alderman Anderson, who is on Zoom.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Baxter, yes, no, abstain. Go ahead, Councillor Baxter.
Yes.
It's going to take a bit of time. Alderman or Councillor Barry. Yes. Alderman Burns on Zoom. Okay, come back. Councillor Cosby. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Duffy on Zoom.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Flaherty on Zoom.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Greenfield in the House.
Lord Mayor. Yes, Lord.
Thank you. Councillor Hockey on Zoom. Councillor Hockian.
No.
Councillor Keating on Zoom. Alderman Kennedy in the House.
Lord Mayor.
Councillor Lockham is not here. Councillor Lavery on Zoom.
No.
Councillor Macaulay on Zoom.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Michael on Zoom.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McAlinden.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McClelland.
Yes.
Councillor McGeown.
Lord Mayor.
Say again, please.
No.
Thank you. Councillor McElrath.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McKinstry.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McNally.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McNeil.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Mitri.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Nelson.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Nicholson.
Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Hanlon.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Neill. Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Pope.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Rankin.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kevin Savage.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kyle Savage.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Spears. Say again.
No.
Councillor Tennyson.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Tinsley.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Tolman.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Twyble.
Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson. And Councillor Wilson. Oh, sorry, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Yes. And Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Donnelly, Deputy Lord Mayor. Add on. And Lord Mayor, no. Go back to Alderman Burns.
No, Lord Mayor. Sorry, I'm having difficulties connecting.
You're perfectly okay. Councillor Hockey. Councillor Hockey, is Councillor Hockey on?
Hear me?
Councillor Keating. Councillor O'Neill.
No, Lord Mayor.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, Councillor Hockey is saying no there, but I don't think you're able to hear her. Councillor Keaton's not here at the minute, but Councillor Hockey's here and she said no.
Councillor Hockey, can you say again?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, can.
No,
hear you
Lord
loud
Mayor,
and clear
thank
now.
you. I don't know what's wrong there. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so for the proposal, yes 12, no 26. Go through the yeses and then I'll go through the noes. Yes, Alderman Anderson, Councillor Baxter, Councillor Barry, Councillor Cosby, Councillor Greenfield, Councillor MacLeod, Councillor McElrath, Alderman Moutry, Alderman Rankin, Councillor Tinsley, Alderman Wilson and Councillor Wilson. And for the noes was Alderman Burns, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Flaherty, Councillor Hockey, Councillor Hockin, Alderman Kennedy, Councillor Lavery, Councillor McCauley, Councillor Michael, Councillor Michael Linden, Councillor McGeown, Councillor McKinstry, Councillor McNally, Councillor McNeil, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Nicholson, Councillor O'Hanlon, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Pope, Councillor Kevin Savage, Councillor Kyle Savage, Alderman Spears, Councillor Tennyson, Councillor Toman, Alderman Twyble, and Alderman Boiler-Rudner. Thank you very much, members. Okay, members, we're going to move to the report. Are we all agreed? Sorry. Apologies, we'll go for the proposal by Councillor Spears. Proposal by Councillor O'Hanlon, second by Councillor Spears. That's that right, yes? Are we agreed? We're agreed. Okay, thank you, members. We move on. Can I get Councillor Baxter, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick point on it now that the vote has been taken. I do note from the minutes that, and it happened during the vote again, where we had a couple of councillors who weren't able to make a vote because of technical issues. I know Councillor Wilson, and it was probably his first committee meeting, was having problems with the iPad that night and couldn't make a vote, so we're in a bizarre position where we had to get, everybody had to hear an audible yes or no over the airwaves. But it would not be, a wise way forward that if that happens again, that, whoever's in the chair could even make a phone call to the said councillor and put it on loudspeaker where they can vote in the affirmative or whatever, or even phone a member of staff and say, because I think it was probably entering into a wee bit of silliness, but we couldn't take a vote whenever quite clearly you could put your hand up on the screen or you can make a phone call, loudspeaker for all the members to hear. I think going forward, I think if there is technical issues, because there will be, there's a lot of members that haven't come tonight probably when they could have, and we're going to get that even with committees and all going forward. So is that something we could look at, or can we just agree to that tonight that we can do that?
Yeah, I'm going to bring in the Chief Executive. We were actually discussing this earlier. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, we were indeed discussing this earlier. I think Sharon and I have been talking about it as well. What we probably want to do is talk about this at the working group on the 4th of October, because it's happened on a couple of occasions, and it's trying to find, we have a protocol in place, but it talks about the member being heard. So based on that experience, we probably are going to have to revisit that. So that'll be part of that agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. And just to confirm, we all agreed for the rest of the Governance Committee. Thank you, members. Sorry, Councillor McLeod, you looking in? Go ahead.
Yes, Lord Mayor, very briefly, obviously I was in the chair of governance that night, and I very much welcome what the Chief Executive has just Can you hear
Thank
me,
you very
Lord Mayor?
much. Yeah, I think I got most of what you were saying there. You're happy that we're moved forward with that there. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor.
Then you move on to 5.4. Can I seek a proposer and seconder for the minutes of Leisure and Community Service Committee held on the 13th of September 21 to be taken as read and approved and correct record.
Happy to propose, Chair.
Sorry.
Councillor Hawken.
Thank you. And second by Councillor Flaherty. Is that right? Councillor Flaherty, you're on that committee?
Yes, I am. I have my hand up, actually, Lord Mayor.
Not a problem. We'll bring you in now. Go ahead, Councillor Flaherty.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lord Mayor. And please excuse my dulcet tones this evening. Just a matter arising, I'm sure nobody will be surprised, and I'm glad to get back to talking about toilets again, to be perfectly honest with you. It's LCS 130/2021. It's just in relation to a matter that I had highlighted regarding the changing places toilets in the borough. Again, to say thank you to the officers. They've really done a great job on these applications, and they will be they'll be met with such delight by these families across the borough. Secondly, just to thank Sharon and her officers for the speedy response that they did have to the issue that I had in the People's Park with this changing places toilet. I'm glad to see work progressing there. And just again, it would be remiss of me to use the opportunity to say that there is a consultation for changing places toilet open at the moment. It closes on the 20th of October. And I really do implore as many members as possible and to encourage your input into that. This is actually something we can physically do for the constituents across this borough. So I just again pass on my thanks to those officers, and we'll continue the work there that's needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flaherty. Does anybody want to come in? My screen's gone blank here. Again. I'll bring in Alderman Wilson first before we get.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's in regards to in terms of the leisure committee. It's in regards to one of our facilities that's heavily used, and that's Lochgall Country Park. But it's in regards, maybe Mark can help with this one, in terms of the motorsports events that are held in Lochgall Country Park. There's a couple of them every year, and they're hugely successful. One of them was a couple of weeks back there, the rally, and it was again, a huge success as it is every year. There's another event coming up on the 9th of October. It's a Targa rally, and it's usually held in the park and another location on the day, and it's a very ideal spot for it, and a lot of the organisers really appreciate the efforts of council around that. But I think from conversations the organisers have had with one of our officials, Michael Ruddy, I think there's maybe some type of an issue over it this year, and the organisers are sort of getting a bit concerned about if the venue will be made available or not for the event. And it's on the 9th of October, which is really only a couple of weeks away. And I would be really, really grateful if Mark Parkinson could have a discussion with the organisers of the rally, just to see if those issues could be overcome. It's, there is an expectation, I suppose, from the organisers' perspective that the location will be offered, and as it is each year, and it would be good if that conversation could happen, and within a very short space of time in the next few days, if some certainty could be brought to that. I was just contacted today about it, so thanks for indulging me, Lord.
Thank you very much, Alderman Wilson. Going to bring in Sharon Gorman regarding that.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And just to note, officers are engaging and will be engaging with the event organisers, and happy to update Councillor Wilson as that progresses. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And apologies, Councillor Flaherty, that I didn't wish you well there and speedy recovery. Get some Lucas into you because my screen went blank, so I couldn't see where he was looking at. I'm going to bring in Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thanks, Lord Mayor. And I suppose in the same matter, I will put my thanks to the officers who sort of dealt with this very, really quickly. It is something that has to be sort of considered fully. As I understand that the paperwork is being checked and they should be in contact with the organisers tomorrow in relation to the outcome, and I'm hoping it's positive. So, look, put on record my thanks to the officers that I spoke to today earlier on first thing this morning about this. So, thanks, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nicholson. No other questions? We all agreed, members? Thank you. Move on to 5.5. Can I seek a proposal and seconder for the minutes of the Economic Development and Regeneration Committee held on the 14th September to be taken and read as a correct record? Councillor Michael Linden proposed.
Sure.
Can I get a seconder? Alderman Reidry, thank you very much. We all agreed? Councillor Flaherty, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Again, I don't sit in this committee, but it's sort of a matter arising out of EDR 11.8/118/2021. I just wanted to ask a very brief question. Perhaps an officer could come back to me about it. It's in regards to the Christmas programme. It's actually in regard to the silent Christmas or relaxed Christmas as we always would have had in council. This is a very, very important event that council has always supported. It is so highly thought of by these families. And I have a slight concern. I've asked a number of questions in different forums about this. I'm slightly concerned that there's no detail as yet on this event. Usually at this point in the year, it would be the planning would be well underway, because it's not a straightforward event, and it's one-on-one with families, which is the whole point of it. So if perhaps some of the officers could get back to me. I have families asking me about this already, because usually, I say, the planning would be in place. The event would be really the first end of November into the first week of December, and there's a certain amount of planning these families do really require. So I would really appreciate a wee update on that particular event, please, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flaherty. I'm going to bring in Olga. And Olga, could you please just double confirm the dates of the Christmas events, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We'll send out all the details of all the Christmas events tomorrow for members. There are a number of different events taking place right across the borough, right through the whole month of November. And certainly Councillor Flaherty will follow up on your query as well, and bring back a discussion with you in relation to that event. We do appreciate the families would like early notification, and that's what we're endeavouring to do. But we're also aware that we're trying to operate an event as well that will take on board any regulations in relation to restrictions.
Thank you very much, Olga. Any other questions? No, thank you very much, members. We all agreed? Then move on to 5.6. I seek a proposal and seconder for the minutes of the Performance and Audit Committee held on the 16th of September to be taken as read and approved as a correct record. Councillor Tolman, are you here? Yep. Councillor Tolman proposed. Councillor Michael.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Michael. Proposed and second by Councillor Tolman and second by Councillor Michael. We all agreed? Councillor Tolman, you looking in again? No. Happy days. Thank you very much, members. Move on to agenda item 6, Chief Executive's report. 6 October, I'm going to call Sean McNichol, the Strategic Director for Strategy and Performance, to present this report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Members, this report is before you because the local government coronavirus flexibility of district council meetings regulations have now been extended until the end of March 2022. And as a result, we just want to formalise the arrangements for council and committee meetings going forward. So the recommendation is that council and committee meetings operate on a hybrid basis, as the council is doing tonight, from October onwards, subject to an ongoing review in relation to any potential changes to the legislation.
Councillor Mackle, go ahead.
Just happy to propose a recommendation, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Do we have a seconder, Councillor Pope?
Yes, happy to second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pope. We all agreed? Thank you.
Agreed.
Move on to 6.2. Damon's having a wee bit of IT problems. 6.2, implementation of the strategic planning policy and development in the countryside, which is the planning and advice note. And I'm going to call upon Olga to deliver the report as Damien's having IT problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And this report is in relation to the follow-up of the workshop that members had in relation to discussions around the local development plan and the information that had been recently circulated in relation to the planning advice notice. And the recommendation, it is recommended that members approve the draft letter to the Minister for Infrastructure in relation to the planning advice note PAN on the implementation of strategic planning policy for development in the countryside as outlined at Appendix 2.
Thank you very much, Olga. I'm going to call upon Councillor Nicholson.
Yep, thank you, Lord Mayor, and we did discuss this at length at the last planning committee, and this was proposed to draft this letter and bring it to the full council. Lord Mayor, the current planning policies we have at the minute allow certain movement within planning criteria, and with input from planning officers. However, this approach that has been taken by the minister is going to make it very challenging going ahead within the rural areas to get permission, which at the moment it is still very challenging, and there's no real need for it. I think I referred to in the meeting, this was a change of policy by stealth, and I'm still of that opinion. And there's words added where there weren't words, and I'm still of the opinion that this is a complete change in policy. If this PAN is upheld, it's going to have devastating impact on rural communities and families looking for replacement dwellings, dwellings on farms, dwellings within clusters or gap sites. So I'm happy to propose this, Lord Mayor, and I hope that the minister does take cognizance of the content of the letter. I've spoken to her personally on this about a week ago at the Palace, along with other members that were there at the Mid-South West meeting. And I think she did listen, and I did warn her and told her this letter was coming. So, Lord Mayor, I'm happy to propose this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. I'm going to bring in Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I welcome the formulation of the letter. I've had a number of concerned planning applicants who may well be impacted by this, and my concern is that we do have applications already in the system that actually may well have been approved, but because the minister, and Councillor Nicholson said stealth, I actually think she's been quite brazen. The minister's been quite brazen in doing this. And you know, how do we know how many applications we may have in the system that may fall foul of this? Because when the application was submitted, this actually wasn't in place. So it has been retrospectively going to have to be applied to applications. Have we made decisions that would be impacted on that? And I suppose that is a question maybe for the planners. I don't expect a full explanation this evening, but the general gist of that is quite concerning to me, because I know it has caused anxiety for a number of people who are getting replacement farm dwellings, and in one particular case, a cluster. But it just seems to be the wrong way to apply new planning policy. And I'm wondering, is there a way, and I'm sure the department have, but is there a way that we can also clarify with the department, have they went out to full consultation for this? And if not, why not? Given the fact that any other public change in policy or statements or legislation must go out to public consultation, and we should ask that question. And if that is, as I'm being told, that it has not happened, then the minister should desist from this immediately. And if she is intent on pushing forward with this, every application that has been in the system prior to the introduction of this should at least be judged on the basis as in which it was submitted based on the planning policy that existed at that particular time, because people are going to fall foul of this, and it's not going to be one or two applications here and there. I think it's going to be quite significant, and we just need to make sure that we're defending our ratepayers from the Minister's draconian introduction of this policy. Thank you. And maybe the members on the planning committee from this council, who are colleagues of the Minister, would make every effort to bend her ear on this matter also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby, and I'm going to bring in Councillor Savage on Zoom.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. And we did have a good discussion, constructive discussion at the last plan committee meeting and around this PAN notice. And as Councillor Cosby says, I think this came out as a PAN notice to avoid a consultation as it changed to planning policy. So that's why we've got this notice. It will impact particularly on our rural residents, and I've had calls from concerned constituents, agents in relation to applications already in the system that may, by the default of this new PAN, fail planning, where they've already paid their money on an expectation that it will be passed. So, Chair, I would be very happy to second the proposal made by Councillor Nicholson in relation to the issuing of this letter. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to bring in Alderman Wilson.
Yeah, thanks. I would agree with everything that's been said so far. And as Councillor Savage said, we had a very good discussion at Planning Committee on it. And I think, even further than that, I think it does sort of strike at the heart of the Planning Committee's own autonomy in terms of what is acceptable and what, the Minister's intervention. I feel it's totally unhelpful. I think it does need clarity in terms of what our committee, in terms of its legal responsibilities, really are in regards to this. Do we have, the ability to have our view based on, the policy that we have been working through for the past 6 or 7 years? Are we saying now that that has been the wrong policy? I wouldn't imagine we are going to say that. And with that being the case going forward, do we have the authority and the autonomy to continue on as we have been, which I feel the PPS 21, its current guise, is restrictive enough. I don't think anybody wants to see any further restrictions. You're building a house on a farm, it has to be sited a cluster with the existing farm. You're limited to one application every 10 years. So new entrants are struggling, especially to get a dwelling on an out farm, for instance. So those are all issues that to me are excluding, new entrants to farming. So there's enough hurdles for our rural dwellers without bringing in this second raft of hurdles. I think, everybody could see it far enough from that perspective. So I do think we need a wee bit of clarity. I've asked Damien for it, I think, at the last meeting, and we'll look forward, I'm quite sure, as committee members, to another full discussion on it at our next committee meeting next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. I'm going to bring in Damien. Hopefully, Damien may be able to answer some of the questions that are coming from other members. Damien's on Zoom. Damien, if you put your headpiece down.
Sorry, can you hear me now, Lord Mayor?
If you, yeah, that's you now. No, it's not. It's maybe not the whole way down. Can you try push that up and down? That's you now.
Can you hear? Yeah. Look.
No, sorry, Damien, it's not working. We'll try and come back to you. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Like Councillor Nicholson, I took the opportunity to speak with the Infrastructure Minister in relation to this. Look, I agree with the sentiments of the letter and have no issue in supporting it. I think the issue, for example, where there effectively is a change in definition in terms of infill or in terms of buildings on a farm, I don't think that's helpful at all. And I think that I think Councillor Wilson or Alderman Wilson referred to given the autonomy of the planning authority of council, and that's what we were told, that whenever decisions were devolved, whenever planning was devolved to councils, that's what give the councils the autonomy to be able to make and interpret policy as they see fit. I don't see any liberal interpretation of existing PPS 21 through planning. And if you take a look at the number of refusals go out through the door in council, that will show you justify that officers are being pretty rigid in terms of the existing interpretations of policy. So look, I have no hesitation in supporting the letter going to the Minister. I know that just for Councillor Cosby's point, I think, and maybe Councillor Nicholson will correct me if I'm wrong, the Minister did say that this was going out to consultation, and she encouraged Council to respond with its views. And I would like to think that whenever that consultation does come out, we could do an even more robust response rather than just the letter we have before us, maybe given some more detail and the impact that it will have on the number of applications that's before Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Hanlon. I'm going to bring in Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and like others, certainly be concerned with the amount of applications we've already had started through our process, and then this change coming in. I suppose the question, I know I can't get talking to Damien, but has there been any discussions within the committee or with the planners as to how they are moving forward at this stage at the moment? Because it does appear to me that from some of the people that have been on and concerned that we seem to have nearly went down this road of this type of policy in the background or in the thinking of some of the correspondence out and refusals. I'm just wondering, is that the case, or are we still sitting as was? Or no, some other councils aren't even really taking some of this on board. So just if Damien can respond. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greenfield. We'll try Damien again. No, nothing's coming through, unfortunately, Damien.
Any joy with that?
Yeah, that's you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, thank you and apologies again for losing connection. I'm just having difficulties my end here. And I'm catching some of this, but I think the last point that was made was about the position that's been taken by other councils in relation to this. I think there are a number of councils. What I'm picking up is a number of councils are quite content, apparently, with the plan and what it contains, whereas other councils are taking a similar line to ourselves and are very much against it and consider it actually to be new policy as opposed to clarification of existing policy. Certainly, that's the approach that we're taking. And we consider that because it is new policy, it should have gone through public consultation. So there are a number of councils that are taking the same line. There are also rumours circulating that someone out there is going to judicially review this plan as well. We don't know who that is, but certainly there are rumours to that effect, but we just have to wait and see how it plays out. But certainly a letter back from us along the lines that's been drafted. I think there will be a similar letters going from a number of other councils as well. Lord Mayor.
Thank you for that update, Damien. Alderman Spears just said here that he'd give you 50p for the meter to get the electric.
I very much appreciate it.
I'm going to bring in Councillor McElrath, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. And it's really probably just to let members know that this is on the agenda for the Northern Ireland Partnership panel on Wednesday morning. It has been brought by the head of planning at Causeway Coast and Glens, just sort of reiterating the point that Damien has just made. So there will be an opportunity, obviously, to discuss this at the panel, hopefully with the Minister directly. So it's just to reassure members that, obviously, as Damien has said, there are other councils that are having issues with this, like ourselves, and just as with other members, the individual cases have been raised with myself. So it's just to reassure members that it'll be raised in another forum as well on Wednesday morning.
Appreciate that update, Councillor McElrath. Going to bring in Councillor Tolman.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, for letting me in. It's just a quick comment, or just to raise an error with the letter. Should the letter not be addressed to the private office rather than her constituency email?
Duly noted, Councillor Tolman. Thank you very much for that legal aid. The Chief Executive will rectify that before it goes out. Thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder, proposed by Councillor Nicholson and second by Councillor O'Hanlon, and we all are in agreement. Thank you, members. Members, we're going to take 5 minutes. I'm conscious that some members in here have been sitting here for about almost 3 hours. So the time is now 21:21. If we come back for 26, 27 minutes past. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, members, and welcome back. Going to agenda item 7, schedule of correspondence. 7.1, local government annual conference 2021. Do we have any comments or views on that? And Councillor Flaherty, go ahead.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's actually in relation to 7.2, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it should be of no surprise to anybody, because it's the second response back with regards to the Children's Funeral Fund. And I'm actually a wee bit emotional about this today because my colleague Rosemary Barton, MLA, raised this on the floor of the Assembly this morning. So we're pushing this up, guys. And I want to say to all you members too, to thank you for your unwavering support for the Children's Funeral Fund. I just want to take this opportunity again. Thank you, Roger, for writing the letters in the first place. And I know it get quite frustrating writing letters all the time. But this is all we can do at the minute because this is not within our gift anymore. This is within the gift of the minister. So again, I appeal to her to implement this fund forthwith. And I really, really implore anyone with any more influence to try to apply some pressure to implement this fund. I appreciate these letters. I have a folder full of them. I appreciate the ongoing commitment and support of both ministers. I appreciate that councils are always being highly commended for being so proactive, and I'm so proud of this council for being the first to do it. And it's great that we can be caring in these circumstances. But as even this letter says again, this support from councils was only ever to be interim, and it doesn't cover every cemetery. So there are parents still missing out on even this small gesture. So again, I say we need to get this done. And it's over to you, ministers. But thank you very much, Chief Executive, and also to the staff in cemeteries who carry out such a lovely job all the time and have to implement the scheme that we do have. Thank you, Lord Mayor, for allowing me in there.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty, and spoken from the heart. And thank you on behalf of Council for persevering with us here. It really does show that local government can bring about change, and hopefully sometime soon we will bring about change, and it will all be down to yourself for your lobbying. Councillor Tinsley, can I bring you in now? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. And it's really just to sort of back up Councillor Flaherty. I know that all along I've been very supportive of this, but it's been just really lip service, as I say, and it's because I've never had to experience anything along this in the past. But I was dealing with a family just within the past month, and words can't describe, to be honest with you, just whenever you were able to offer this little bit of support, how much it actually meant to that family. And really, it's only when you experience that I just felt I had to say something tonight in the respect that it really is just what this council was able to offer in terms of support was actually very much appreciated at the time of a very traumatic time at the death of a little baby. So I just want to fully support wholeheartedly, Councillor Flaherty, everything that you have been doing and the Assembly, those ministers in the Assembly have been doing. Because as I say, it's only when you witness it firsthand that you really do appreciate what that little bit of support can mean to the family. So thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tinsley. Any other comments? No, duly noted. Thank you very much, members. Move on to agenda item 8. And we have 8.1 to 8.4 for approval. Happy enough to take them all on block. Can I get a proposer and seconder to take them all on block? Proposed by Alderman Twyvell. Seconded by Councillor Baxter. Thank you very much. We all agreed? Thank you, members. And 8.5, date of surrender and release from the pensioner, which is the Mount Zion House in Lurgan. Can I get a proposer and seconder for that one as well?
So proposed, Lord.
I'm not sure who that was. Say that again.
Councillor
Is that
Michael.
Councillor? Thank you, Councillor Michael.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor McKinstry. We all agreed? Thank you very much, members. I'm moving on to agenda item 9, which is notice of motion. Notice of motion is in relation to fireworks and was brought forward to us by Councillor Nelson. Councillor Nelson, I'm going to bring you in now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, really, it's the time of the year where we're all going to get contact over fireworks. They become a serious concern for many, and certainly something that my phone goes mad about in and around this time of the year. And it's very easy at the time to be very reactive and deal with the here and now. So I suppose the purpose of this motion is that we are a wee bit more proactive as a council around fireworks. I don't want to be a killjoy. I like fireworks as much as the next person. I love going to the display at the lakes, and I really enjoy it. But I suppose what I'm trying to do is encourage a more thoughtful approach to firework displays, which takes into consideration the vulnerable within our community, but also our animals, including the VIP dog that features on many of our meetings, Woody, as he climbs up into the camera's view. So I suppose what I'm asking, and I don't want to steer too far away from the wording of the motion, because I think the wording there just keeps it in a way that, you know, we can all get behind, that we as a council encourage all public firework displays within our borough to be advertised in advance of the event. That then allows people who don't like the noise, who have vulnerable relatives that don't like the noise, or indeed pets, to be prepared for that, to take any precautions necessary. That we as a council would think about a public awareness campaign about how fireworks impact on animal welfare and vulnerable people, including encouraging and educating the public about how to mitigate against the risks of that. Also asking that we as a council would write to the executive to encourage them to introduce legislation to limit the maximum noise level of fireworks for those sold for both public and private events. And also that we would get in touch with our local suppliers, and they all are licensed, the ones they should be licensed anyway, and encourage them to stock quieter fireworks for the public to purchase. So that's really the crux of the motion, members. I won't labour it tonight. I'm hoping that we can get good support on this, and then take a more proactive approach to fireworks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nelson. And I'm going to bring in the seconder, which is Councillor Hoggan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll be brief. We've had a long meeting up to this point. So it was just basically to support my colleague, Councillor Nelson. I had mentioned and questioned our local inspector from the PSNI on this matter, and they confirmed to me that Halloween is indeed the busiest time of the year for them regarding ASB, and fireworks do play a big part in that. So with that in mind, that alone would bring me to support this motion. I think in reality, Councillor Nelson's motion is a practical way to deal with some of these issues without actually impacting, hopefully, on any of the joy that these events can actually bring, while also pushing the safety. Reality is, although we might all enjoy it, there are a number of vulnerable and elderly residents in particular who find it a difficult time of the year. So I think this, as I say, is a practical way that the council can be leaders in dealing with these issues in a sensible way. So I'm happy to support this motion tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hoggan. And thank you, Councillor Nelson, for bringing this proposal forward. You have Councillor O'Hanlon. You did have your hand up. Do you still want to come in?
No, Chair, I'm happy enough.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to bring in Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And like obviously the sentiments and the motion is no issue, but I just want a clarification. Do we not do a lot of this that's on this motion? Surely anybody that has a fireworks display has to advertise it and go through health and safety and risk assessments and all the different things you require, like before you, otherwise nobody's going to turn up, are they? You know, it's not advertised. And also, you know, PCSP, obviously, I think they do something. I think I remember seeing it one time. in relation to public awareness. So I just think that, you know, although the sentiment and motion I've no issue with, but I think it almost says that we're not doing anything. And I think that's disingenuous. I think, you know, there is systems in place at council. So, like, Lord Mayor, as I say, the sentiment's in motion, but I think this should be dealt with a committee, the relevant committee, and go through the points raised, but also think, what do we do at council if we're not doing it, and find out how we do it better and things like that. But I am aware there's a lot of this being done, and I think it's unfair on the officers to say, you know, list a list in front of us and say, you know, do this, do that, do whatever, and when it's being done. So, like, I'd like a bit more clarification what exactly council do as part of a process of fireworks. And as I say, because I don't like this type of thing, because it almost indicates that, you know, there's nothing being done, and I just don't like that, because as I appreciate it, it reflects on officers, and I think that, to be fair, I think we need a bit more meat on the bone on this, and I think the best way to trash that out, Lord Mayor, is committee. That's only my thoughts on it, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you for your views, Councillor Nicholson. Going to bring in Councillor Michael.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I'd like to support the motion as well. I mean, it's not just council that hold public fireworks displays. Lots of people hold public fireworks displays, so it'd be wrong to assume that the motion is aimed at council and their actions. It's about all fireworks displays and some private displays and gardens and things like that. It's just trying to create awareness about the harm that the loud fireworks can do to people. I have 3 pets myself, and for the last 2 weeks of October and the first week of November, they're petrified every single night by fireworks going off. So it's just really the sentiment in the motion is to create awareness about that. And I think council have a role to play in all of that picture, but we can't bring in legislation. So part of the motion is about encouraging the Assembly to bring forward legislation to limit the decibels in terms of fireworks. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Michael. I'm going to bring in Councillor Cosby now.
Hey, thank you, Lord Mayor. And granted, still no issue really with the sentiments of the motion. However, I do agree with Councillor Nicholson in some of his queries, and we accept that firework displays are held both legally and, quite honestly, illegally. And nobody knows that more than the residents of Clowney Park, Brownstown Park and Dermot Drive and Portadown. But if I could suggest an amendment to the notice of motion, and it is very simply that this council will report all efforts that it is making to, and then pick up, encourage all public firework displays, blah, blah, blah. So it's just inserting a number of words just after this council will, and the words are report on all efforts that are being made to. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cosby. I may come back in a couple of minutes just to tie that one up. I'm going to bring in Councillor Tennyson and then Alderman Spears.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. It's just really to speak in support of the motion. I mean, most animal owners or pet owners will have raised fireworks in the community with a councillor at some point in time. I think this motion is relatively straightforward. I think the sentiments in it should be easily agreed by all members. There's 2 very simple action points. One is that we have a public awareness campaign that can be done at next to no cost, building upon actions that this council already takes, can be done via social media and so on. The second is that we write to the executive in support of legislation being brought forward. There are, other areas and issues with illegal fireworks sales and so on, but in terms of what's in front of us, I see no issues whatsoever, and I'm really not sure what would actually be gained or added by this going to committee. Members have had the usual notice period to consider this, and I think I didn't even intend to speak on the motion, actually, to be honest, because I thought it would be nodded through and just be totally unanimous. But I just think we are dancing on the head of a pin here, and it should be really straightforward to just agree this tonight. But thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to bring Alderman Spears in.
Lord Mayor, just in relation to it, I mean, I think in fact, I'm going to second what Councillor Nicholson said to send it to committee, because I don't know personally, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of people here in this meeting having a clue what the current legislation is and what powers we as council have, if any, in relation to this. And I'm not against the thing. I can understand what it's saying, but I would like some degree of clarity as regards it. So I'm quite happy to second the proposal, and maybe that it's taken to a committee and a wee bit of research work is done as regards the powers that council have currently, and possibly make a meaningful recommendation then to the powers that be at Stormont to introduce that legislation after that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and I think Alderman Spears had summed it up very well in relation to a meaningful debate and discussion in the future, because we're well aware that fireworks and all in its nature is well regulated, and we have a very good team of staff with environmental health, public health that will deal with such issues and complaints that do arise. I'm a dog owner, and I know on Halloween night the dog comes into the house a lot earlier than it should because of fireworks and all that comes with it. And you know, obviously, I think we need to have an informed discussion in relation to it, because this motion here would nearly indicate that we're doing absolutely nothing as a local authority. And as Councillor Nicholson has said, I think it's important that we have a very clear message that we're well aware of our responsibilities, and indeed, as Alderman Spears has said, have that informed, meaningful discussion in relation to the way forward. So I would fully support their motion in relation to putting this to committee for further discussion, come back with a clear message, and that doesn't rule out this motion in the future, but I think it's just making sure that we have a clear message of our responsibilities, what we currently do and what we're allowed to do within the law, and then go to Stormont with our message from that particular meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. I'm going to bring in Councillor Cosby again.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm just not sure procedurally what Councillor Nichols suggested, but I think we have both just agreed a number of words that probably would be suffice. So I don't care who proposes it or seconds it, but just the amendment would be that this council will report to the relevant committee on all efforts that are being made to, and then continue on the notice of motion from there.
Will you second that, Councillor Nicholson? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we have a proposal for an amendment that was proposed by Councillor Cosby and seconded by Councillor Nicholson. Just from my own perspective, and as the council's veterans champion, I know many veterans are not in favour of fireworks, and you can appreciate, but even with a small loud bang, it triggers a lot of people. So me personally, I would be keen to to delve deeper so that we as a council can get more information out there, rather than at the minute we're on one level playing field. I would like to be able to delve deeper. Councillor Nelson, if I know you're proposing this, but I'm coming to yourself what the amendment is. Are you going to accept the amendment? Because what we could do is actually get more from your proposal as the of the motion, if we were able to bring it to committee down the line. But I'm going to come to yourself on the amendment if you're going to accept that.
Lord Mayor, to be quite frank, if it wasn't so embarrassing, this would be laughable, that fireworks are being politicised in a green-orange nature. I'm astounded. It's a new low on the part of some this evening. For others, it's just an attempt to become relevant. If anyone wanted a more informed, meaningful discussion, they could have researched this. They had this notice of motion in their papers from last week. They could have phoned me. I'm in constant contact with people from across the party benches on a regular basis on issues that we want to get clarity on. This motion isn't aimed at any way at officers or at council. I would actually question if those who have commented this evening have read it. It's a very simplistic motion. It focuses on the noise of fireworks. It's not about the regulation of fireworks, the legality of fireworks. It's not complex. It's about the noise and how the noise impacts on the vulnerable in our community and our pets. It's that simple. Thank you, Councillor Owen Tennyson, because you really just summed it up for me. There's two very simplistic requests. We regularly write to the executive, so that there's people stalling that process tonight is just astounding. To ask them to look at legislation on this, and let's look at their reply. We also, as a council, we absolutely advertise when we're doing firework displays, but what we don't do, and it's fairly simple for all of us to know this as people who sit on the committees and look at the public campaigns that we embark upon, we do not do a public campaign that is very focused on how the noise of fireworks can impact on the vulnerable in our community and our pets. We simply don't do it. So taking it to committee's a fudge. It's going to prolong a fairly simple request. It's actually going to prolong it past Halloween, which is astounding, because if people really were that concerned about this motion tonight, they could have lifted the phone to me today to get me to clarify any points of the motion that they weren't sure of. But to push this to an October committee, to bring back to a full council meeting where any decision would then have to be ratified before any action taken, we are putting this off for another Halloween. Our phones will go, as all our phones do at this time of the year. In fact, it was last year that I got a lobby email from both elderly charity, a charity that works on behalf of the elderly, a charity that works on behalf of animals. Two different lobby emails about this issue. It came to me after Halloween, so I put a note in my diary to revisit this at August time. And at August time, that's exactly what I have done. So I am quite informed about this. I have been asked to do this on behalf of two lobby groups. And I really would ask members to rethink their approach to this tonight and to get behind the motion. But I won't be accepting any amendments tonight, Chair.
Okay, that is your will. We will move to a vote on it, on the amendment. So the question now be put. You have a proposal and a second for the amendment. I'm going to call upon Alderman Anderson, yes, no, or abstain.
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Baxter. Go ahead again, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barry.
Yes.
Alderman Burns.
Yes.
Councillor Cosby.
Yes.
Councillor Duffy.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Flaherty.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Greenfield.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Hockey. Councillor Hockey.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Hockey. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hockian.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Keating. Alderman Kennedy. Say again.
Yes, Lord.
Councillor Arkham. Councillor Lavery.
No, Lord Mayor, and hope Willie's keeping well.
Councillor Macaulay.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Michael.
Shocked, Lord Mayor, absolutely not.
Councillor McAlinden.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McLeod.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McGill.
Lord Mayor.
Can you say that again, please?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McElrath.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McKinstry.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McNally.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor McNeil.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Moodtree.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Say again.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson.
No, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Hanlon.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor O'Neill.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Pope.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Rankin.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kevin Savage.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Kyle Savage.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Spears. Say again. It's just to get you on the audio.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tennyson.
No, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Tinsley.
Yes.
Councillor Toman.
No, Lord Mayor.
Alderman Twyble. Go again, sorry.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Donnelly. Is not in the house. And Lord Mayor, yes. Bear with me 2 seconds, members. Okay, thank you, members, for your patience. So, yes for the amendment, 22, noes 16. So the amendment now becomes the substantive. Members, are we agreed on the substantive? Councillor O'Hanlon.
Sorry, Chair, Lord Mayor, I don't know why, but that keeps doing that. No, I'm not asking to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. We all agreed for the substantive motion? Agreed? Thank you, members. Okay, and we're going to go into confidential business. Can I seek a proposer and seconder to go into committee for consideration of confidential items of business? Councillor Nicholson, proposed and seconded by Alderman Moodtree. Okay, thank you, members. Members and listeners to the audio feed, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into confidential session of the council. This means that we'll be turning off the audio feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I ask the ACT officers to please turn off the audio feed and confirm with me in the confidential section of the meeting can proceed? Thank you very much. Can I get a proposal and seconder to adopt the decisions taken in committee? Proposed by Alderman Moutray and second by Councillor Greenfield. Okay, members, agenda item 13, any other relevant business? I don't have any. So members, thank you very much. 10:15, so we're doing well tonight for time. To the members in the chamber, thank you very much for making your way over and safe home. And members at home, straight to bed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.